survive. Woke up in the morning, sleepy eyes yawning. Jumped out of bed, started the day, opened the curtains. Felt the cool breeze, the sun shining on my face. But something was missing, I needed my job to chase. Give me coffee in the morning. Give me coffee in the morning.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
I was a minute late. I was running my mouth.
Morning, butterfly.
Oh, yeah, let me get over here to the chat. Good morning, Butterfly. How are you this morning? How's your weekend been, Kimber?
It's good. Too bad it's almost over.
I know, right? It's like, dang, man, by the time Sunday gets here, you just now starting to get your relax on if you're like me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need one of them. We need those 4-day weekends like every time.
Yes, we do.
We
I
should
totally agree.
right? We should petition that. Like, we want.
Good morning, Wisdom.
Can we
We're
just start
good.
incorporating Monday as part of our weekend?
Oh, I wish.
Good morning, Wisdom. How are you? I moved my mic back way further from my mouth because when I go to drink my drink, it gets in my way. So if you guys can't hear me, anything different, let me know. Good morning, Southern Gal True Crime. Thanks for coming in.
Morning, Southern Gal.
We'll give it a minute, guys, and let the notification went out. We'll see if any more trickles in. I don't know how this Sunday morning live, we've done this a couple times. We'll see how it does. Good morning, B. We're going to try to do this on Sundays, like a weekly recap of true crime this week. Just kind of go over some of the things that have popped off during the week and different things we might be following or want to take a look at. You guys had a great weekend, I hope. Look at everybody coming in. I appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us as we get into our groove and get going here and figuring out how we're going to do things over here. We are going to talk about a couple of cases today. I do want to go over a little bit more on that Karen Reed case. There's just a couple little things we're going to watch on the testimony stuff because they're still under verdict watch. Good morning, Chris. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Chris.
How are you guys doing? I hope everybody's had a good weekend. I mean, we all busy during the week. We deserve some relaxing on the weekends for sure. Let me see. I was like if I go on Reddit, I go in certain particular things to read particular cases. Like I don't ever go over there and read stuff and comment and participate. I don't really do all that. But I read some of the conversations in the what I call the smart groups because I don't go around all that crazy stuff. But there's some interesting conversations all week, really, week and a half, that have been happening over there about Jennifer Soto and the questions people have and the things they're seeing that we're seeing in the documents. And it really gives me the people are kind of down the middle, and torn about how to feel about her. Like everybody wanted to be able to give her grace and support, but at the same time, the more you read, you're like, how in the world? And it was just some interesting conversations over there happening about it. And I did grab a couple of things I was going to read, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. How many of you have heard of a case with the plastic surgeon, Dr. Ben Brown? Anybody have heard of that? If you have, you can let me know in the comments.
It's the same way here, Southern. I hadn't heard of him until you said something about him.
Yeah. You've heard about him, Butterfly? Yeah. We're going to go over some stuff in that case. That is a local case here. And So I've been following it since it started. And there's a local journalist here who's really, really done a really huge deep dive from the beginning. Um, and it's been picked up on social media, national news. But it's a very interesting story. Was it an accident or was it intentional? You got the day off? Me too. Like it's Sunday. I don't want to. My granny used to have this thing. We weren't allowed to do any kind of work on Sundays. We couldn't do a load of laundry. We couldn't clean the house. All that had to be done on Saturday because it's the Lord's Day and we don't work. And then as we grow up and life happens, it's like, whatever, it's another day. We got to do this. Now I'm like, nope, it's the Lord's Day. I ain't doing nothing but true criming with my coffee and my friends. That Jocelyn case out of Houston, yeah, I saw it from the beginning when it was happening, and I watched it. It was it's sad because I don't stay in those kid cases long, especially when I realize what's going on there. That was a very sad case, and I hope those guys get prosecuted to the fullest. Um, how people can just go out and be mean to children and do these things is always going to be a huge question. Chris, you know about a lot of cases too. You kind of like are all over the place like me sometimes with these cases. They get intriguing, and some there's like, whoa, I just got to know more. I also saw a post this morning on Twitter from SF Investigates, and it was a new picture of Riley Strain. And I didn't follow all the crazy conspiracy stuff that was. I knew about all of it, but I just couldn't buy into any of that happening because it was pretty obvious to me what happened just from watching the footage alone that we did get to see of him. But they have a new picture posted that was apparently posted that night at the club, and you can see because his arm, the way his arm is lifted, his shirt rises up. He didn't have a belt on, and they took that picture down right after it was posted. And the reasoning behind it apparently was because they just didn't. Eyewitness accounts can be heavily swayed, and they just didn't want that out there that he, just for investigative purposes, I guess, is the way it was worded. But it's out there, and I'm thinking, little things like that though could have squashed certain things. I think whether he had a belt on that picture is really going to, I don't know if how much of a investigative damage that could have done, but it's kind of closing that social media stuff down. And that's another thing we're going to kind of a little bit talk about is Howard Bloom has that new book on the Idaho 4. Boy, is that causing up controversy. It's the social media impact and mainstream media impact on these cases, but I still think that reach is kind of small. I don't know if everybody participates in all the pre-trial stuff. You know what I mean? Like we would. Morning, Dilly Pickles. How are you? Thanks for coming in.
Hi, Dilly.
Yeah, B, when I was growing up, you didn't go to the store on Sunday. And then when they did open, they opened late, like 10 a.m., and they closed by 6 p.m. And it was only a select few things. It wasn't like I remember when things began to start opening, it was like in the 70s. And it was a big deal. Society was like, what's this? And some were like excited for it because people's work schedules and lifestyles are changing and this and that. And businesses began to accommodate it. But people really did not like that at all. Chick-fil-A is one of the only places they're still closed on Sundays, aren't they, to give their employees the day off? There she is, Miss
Hi,
Doodle.
Doodlebug. Hi, Andy. Hi, Big Sexy.
Yeah, Butterfly, we get that now too. It's like a common thing now to be open. If the store's not open on Sunday, people are wondering why, Good morning, Andy. I hope you've had a good weekend. I hope you've all had some decent, good weather, not too hot, not rainy. let me close this over here that I had open first, and I'm going to pull up my. Uh-oh, I covered all that up. Let me move this. Oh, it'd help if I typed in what I wanted this to do, y'all. Sorry. And I won't forget to screen share. I'll try not to. If I do, Kimber, you yell at me now.
I will.
Okay. Let's see which one I was going to play first. I wanted to take a look at the testimony, or not. I don't know if we'll watch all of it because I'm not quite sure how long it was. I got a recap of it too, but it's where the police canine expert weighs in, and I kind of wanted to see some of that. So I thought if you guys were interested, we'd look at that too, because I don't know if you guys saw it on Dago's stream when we looked at the picture of the injuries to John's arm. Did you guys see that? Are y'all familiar with those photos?
Yeah, I saw him the other day when Dago showed him.
Yeah. I'd been seeing them, for a long time, but let me see if I can pull that up real quick to show you before we look at the testimony of her. They'll show the picture, I believe. Let me see. They're going to show it. We'll just do it that way. It's easier.
Hi, Tammy.
Okay. Okay, let me get my screen up here.
Then standing and face the clock.
You saw this or the evidence you give the court and jury in the case having answered the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Can you guys let me know if you can or cannot hear that? I've got everything turned up, so hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
Truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning, doctor.
Good morning.
I'm going to ask you to, when you testify, sir, please speak into the microphone if you can, loud and clear.
Very well.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Is it working?
It should be. All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Little.
Good morning. Could you state your first name and spell your last name for the record, please?
My first name is Frank, and the last name is Sheridan, Sheridan.
And if you can make sure to keep your voice up just because the air conditioner is very loud.
Yeah, I noticed that. Okay.
Dr. Sheridan, what is your profession?
I'm a physician, and my specialty is forensic pathology and neuropathology, but most of my career has been primarily forensic pathology.
What do you currently do for a living?
Nothing. I'm retired.
What role or position of employment did you hold before you retired?
Okay, I was the chief medical examiner for San Bernardino County, California, and I was in that position from 1991 until 2017. That's when I retired from that position, but I stayed on a part-time basis for another few years to help out because the office was understaffed. But a few years ago, 2021 or 22, I've lost track at the time, I finally stopped altogether.
Dr. Sheridan, if you could just pull the microphone a little bit closer. I don't know.
I'll put myself closer to it, I guess. Okay, is that better?
Yes,
And Ms. Little, if we need to, just let us know and we'll turn off the air conditioning.
Your Honor. Describe your educational background for the jury.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Dublin, Ireland, and I had all my initial education there, including primary school, secondary school, and then pre-medical school at the university I was at was the University College Dublin, Ireland, which is part of the National University of Ireland system. So I did my pre-med and medical school training there. And I graduated from medical school in 1971. Then after that, I did a one-year rotating internship, as it's called, of medicine, surgery, and some psychiatry as well. That was a requirement for all doctors for licensure. So that's basically my initial education. After, should I go on with my CV or base or not?
Yes, what did you do after medical school to complete your training?
Well, in the years after medical school, I wasn't in training anymore. I was working in Africa, actually, as a medical officer. And that wasn't training, that was a job. And I was there for 3 years in Central Africa. And I was a general medical officer with various duties that included some teaching, but also seeing patients. So I did that for basically 3 years. I then returned to Ireland and I spent the next 2 years, we're now talking about, by the way, the years I'm about to mention are 1976 to 78. So I was back in my home country, Ireland, and I spent those 2 years doing research and lecturing in pharmacology. Pharmacology is the study of drugs and how they act in the body. And I did that back at the same university where I had originally trained for medical school. So then in 1978, I came to the United States, initially to the University of Oregon, and I spent the next almost 3 years.
I just have to say, I agree, Chris. I was a little annoyed by him already, but I'm trying to get past it all, listening to the man talk. Lord.
Doing research there and lecturing in the field of genetics. It was during the time I was there that I decided to do forensic pathology. So starting in 1980, let me think for a second, 1982, I then had to start what's called a residency program in pathology. And the first part of that, the first year of that was in Loma Linda University Medical Center in Southern California. I then had to interrupt my residency training and I had to go and work in family practice for a year. This was because I was going through the immigration system of the United States, and they required that people in my position work for a year in family practice in a manpower shortage area, as they designated it, an area where there weren't enough doctors. So I did that in a place called Yucca Valley, Y-U-C-C-A Valley, California. But then after that year, I returned to the residency program and continued on at Loma Linda University Medical Center. And this...
They all look as bored as we do with his background. I may have to fast forward him to his testimony, y'all.
Training was in what's called anatomic pathology, which in a way you can think of it as general pathology. It involved autopsies, it involved surgical pathology, looking at slides. From surgery. It involved a few other things as well. And so I was doing that there at Loma Linda. Then from 86 to 88, I went to Los Angeles County, USC, which stands for University of Southern California. So LA County, USC, as it's generally known, for 2 years of training in neuropathology. Neuropathology being disease and injury of the brain, spinal cord, and so forth. So that was from 86 to 88. And then in 1988, I went to the coroner's office, as it was then called. It's now a sheriff coroner's office, but at that time it was a coroner's office, and in San Bernardino. I did my 1 year required training in forensic pathology there. When I finished that year, I stayed on at the same office. And then in 1991, I was appointed chief medical examiner for the county. And as I mentioned earlier, I was in that position up until 2017. And I'm board certified in anatomic pathology, which I mentioned before is general pathology in a sense. Also neuropathology, as I mentioned about the brain and spinal cord primarily. And then finally, forensic pathology.
In other words, Dr. Sheridan, you're triple board certified, is that correct?
I am, yes.
And that's in anatomic pathology, neuropathology, and forensic pathology.
That's correct, yes.
Can you describe any relevant teaching positions that you've held?
Yes.
Just keep your voice up. I'm sorry, it's hard to hear back here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Now it won't even let me control it. Hold on. What's going on?
And based on your review of the information discussed earlier, can you tell?
Are they going to blur out that
photographs,
image?
Can
Really?
you tell whether these injuries were sustained before?
We'll go find the picture in a minute, guys. I can't believe Law and Crime done that when we've all, well, may not have seen it, but it's out there. It's been out there for months and months and months. Makes no sense.
Or after death?
These injuries were
Shit.
sustained before death. We call them ante-mortem, A-N-T-E, mortem meaning before death. And that's based primarily on their color. And you have to take other things into consideration, but that's the basics of it. If these had been post-mortem, they would have a more yellowish orange color, usually yellow.
In your professional opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, are those injuries consistent with being struck by a vehicle while holding a drinking glass?
Objection.
Sustained. May we approach, Your Honor? Sure.
Yeah, Karen's a little bit like me. That face is a dead giveaway every time. She got some expression. She even got in trouble by the judge for laughing. The judge asked her, did she find something funny? So John was allegedly holding a rock glass in his hand. Cops drinking and driving, imagine that. Well, he wasn't driving, she was, but they had been drinking previously before getting in the car and driving. But he was supposedly holding that.
I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you again to keep your voice up, please, sir.
I'm doing my best.
Look, I've done moved this modem, hardwired in. What the hell's going on?
My voice is not as strong as it
There
used to
we
be.
are. Unmuted. We'll stop the AC for a while then. We'll stop the air conditioning for a while then. We want to make sure we hear you.
Okay.
Dr. Sheridan, are these injuries consistent with a motor vehicle accident, in your opinion?
Sustained.
I would say in general, no. I mean,
So that objection was sustained. I think Ms. Little's going to put it to you in a different way.
I'm sorry.
If you could assume for purposes of this question that this individual was involved in a motor vehicle collision as a pedestrian, based on your review of his photographs, are those injuries consistent with having been struck by a vehicle?
Objection.
Sustain, why don't you come back for a minute?
You are unmuted.
Dr. Sheridan, how many autopsies have you conducted on individuals who were involved in pedestrian vehicle motor collisions?
Involved in what pedestrian vehicle?
Yes.
Yeah, well over 100.
What other experience do you have in terms of conducting autopsies with individuals who have been involved in motor vehicle collisions?
Well, I mean, if you take motor vehicle accidents in general, they'd be probably nearly a quarter of my total number of autopsies. So in other words, that'd be close to 3,000. Yeah, that's about right.
Based on your professional experience, what is your opinion regarding whether those injuries are consistent with a pedestrian being struck by a motor vehicle?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it. You can answer that, Doctor.
Hmm?
Can you answer that?
I can answer it, yes.
So go right ahead.
Okay. Okay, but the question was, to be precise, can you just rephrase it? I mean, I said yes, I can answer it, but I can't remember exactly how you phrased it.
Yes, based on your extensive training and experience, what is your opinion regarding whether those injuries are consistent with being struck, with an individual being struck by a vehicle?
If you mean struck in that part of the body, on the arm, like
Yes.
directly, I would say no, it doesn't look like that at all. Mhm.
And can you explain that?
Hey, stop. Hold up. Lord, I love a good expert that's compelling. This guy is like, I think he's extremely intelligent, but he lacks a lot of other things. Like, dude, just lean back a little bit and you won't hit the microphone. He's distracting me from his talking. Y'all get it?
Well, if you're hit by a vehicle, whichever part of your body is hit, if it's a significant impact at all, you're going to get bruising, and we don't have any bruising here. We just have what I would call linear abrasions without any bruising. So that does not look to me at all remotely like an impact from a motor vehicle.
What would you expect to see if an individual's arm were struck by the rear of a motor vehicle?
Well, as I just said a second ago, primarily a lot of bruising, and that's what we don't see here. You might see, well, depending on the circumstances, you might see other things like a fracture or fractures, but you would at least expect bruising.
In your professional opinion, based on your many years of experience, have you conducted any autopsies involving individuals who were involved in any sort of animal attack?
Animal attacks in general, yes, quite a few actually. Well, when I say quite a few, it's not an enormously common event, but I've done probably at least a dozen or so involving deaths where an animal was involved one way or another.
Have you conducted any autopsies in which any individual was attacked by a dog?
Yes, I have a few.
Can you describe that for the jury?
Well, I'd have to just refresh my memory out of the blue here. But first of all, I had a number of cases, 3 or 4, I think, over the years involving
Okay, so I think we have determined that he does not think that that's an accident injuries. Let me see, my screen won't let me slide this back over so I can get into all my functions here. There's another lady move this down. Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to do that earlier. I couldn't even. There we go.
I think this is going to wind up in a hung jury.
You know, like B was, or I'm sorry, like Butterfly said, the jury did send a note out to the judge, right? And they're like, you know, we're done, we're tired, we want to go home, all that stuff, and they couldn't have come to an agreement. And then she evaluated the days, you know, they had been in there and they left early here and there, and the whatever, and that they didn't have full deliberation each day. So she's like, no, you're not done. You need to go back in there and get it done.
Yeah.
And, so, and here we are. But I feel like the same way. I think it's going to be a hung jury. I
Yeah,
don't
because she told him Friday, go eat lunch, come back, and get back in there. And then Friday at the end of the day, they still couldn't reach a verdict. So she told them, don't discuss this with anybody, blah, blah, you know, the whole 9 yards, and come back on Monday. But I think it's going to be a hung jury.
Uh-oh. Sorry, that video started playing in my background and I couldn't hear.
So they're going to have to, so I think it's, but she told them, you know, Friday after she told them that, and then they went back to deliberation after they got back from lunch, because she told them they hadn't had enough time because of, you know, everything. And then she told them Friday after they ate lunch and everything, then they came back. And she told them, well, we'll resume on Monday. Do not talk to anyone. Do not discuss the case with anyone. Do not do anything.
Yeah,
Come
they're
back
never
on
allowed.
Monday.
Yeah, they got their instructions. They're never
Yeah.
allowed to discuss it. But she told them to go hash it out. You're not done yet. So I don't know if they're back there debating, you know, the experts' opinions, because they're going to differ. Of course, that's how it is in trials. I don't know what they're actually weighing so hard on, if it's the evidence at hand or if it's the what appears to be the cover-up stuff. You know what I mean? If they're really struggling with that type of the parts of it, I wonder. This is also from that trial. We're not going to watch the. Oh, no, that's not. This is
Hi,
from.
Drifty.
Let me see something here. I believe this is a channel. I don't know this channel. I found this morning, and it's just a clip of the doctor testifying. So it's not like, but I think it's called Divinity Said, if I'm not mistaken, because I was just researching testimony from the trial, and that's how I found this. So this is one of the lady expert. So let me see if this was the one that showed the picture. I got the picture. We'll show in a minute of his arm. And remember, a lot of these experts that come testify do so after they go into retirement. And this is another one of those.
Position.
The immediate position just recent before retirement was chief medical executive at the for the state of California at the Corcoran State Prison.
So, Dr. Russell, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up, okay?
Yes, I'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a couple
Okay, that right there is annoying as hell.
of air conditioners in here. Just keep your voice as loud as possible. What is in fact an emergency physician?
An emergency physician is a medical specialist who has.
Did you also go to school and continue? You end up
Look, I done made it angry now because I was messing with it. Ugh. I keep trying to go back to this. How come I pass it when I'm not thinking about it, and then I go to it? All right, heifer, act right. Sorry, y'all. Let me try to figure out what the hell. Thought it would catch up. I guess not. Can you guys see that thumbnail they just had that I just actually stopped on it twice? Let me see if I can get her to talk again.
Interested in.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So I attended Northeastern University, pathologist evenings.
Did you
And-
also become an adjunct professor at Cal State Los Angeles, California State Los Angeles?
Yes,
That a separate university,
yes,
and you had separate responsibilities as a professor in that role?
yes.
Were you also teaching legal medicine and forensic?
Once they examined the patient, they would present their case or tell me about the case, and then I would go in and see those patients. In addition to my patients.
That was my next question. Doctor,
Lord, I'm gonna have to start screen recording the things that I do want in particular and just play my own shit. This shit right here is gonna get on my nerves, so I figure out how to make it better. I'm gonna have to call my internet provider. Like, am I like at the highest I can freaking be? Cause this ain't gonna work for me. Well, we're gonna just take her off for a minute because she obviously needs some rest. That dude.
Conducted any autopsies in which any individual was attacked by a dog?
Yes, I have a few.
Can you describe that for the jury?
Well, I'd have to just refresh my memory out of the blue here. But first of all, I had a number of cases, 3 or 4, I think, over the years involving children, was primarily children who were killed by feral dogs. And the dogs attacked the kid and killed them. So I had that a few times. But then I've also had cases where an animal or a dog particularly was involved, but wasn't the actual cause of death, so to speak, but they were involved in something that was happening and left some traces of their activity in the form of bite marks or scratch marks.
In your professional opinion, are those injuries consistent with an animal attack?
Are they consistent with what?
An animal attack.
I would say they are, yes. I'm not 100% sure about this, but my initial reaction when I saw this photograph was that it was probably an animal mark, and most likely I would say a dog. Scrape marks with the paws, and possibly also a bite mark from the teeth as well. Possibly. I'm not 100% sure. I didn't get a chance to analyze it right there on the spot, so to speak. But my basic impression is that these are consistent with marks caused by, say, a dog using his paws or claws, if you want to put it that way, and possibly the teeth as well.
And if there's a pointer up there, would it be possible to direct the jury to the injuries that you're referring to on the screen? There should be a little laser pointer up there.
I don't know that I see one.
It's not there.
No.
May I approach you, Anna? Sure.
Are we here?
Yeah, I'm here. We're here. I was grabbing something real quick to show. I just grabbed this super quick. Let me see. Okay. Can you guys see that okay? It's not blown up real big. Let me see if if they got any more photos here of it exactly. No. Okay, so this is what they're talking about. These appear to be, can y'all see my pointer there, scratches? And this is also like scratches, and this is going to be the bite mark from the dog, or alleged bite marks from the dog. And when I listened to both of those experts testify, and then I went and listened to some outside of this case testify, and looked at different dog bites and stuff, because I like to dive in if I'm going to look at something. So I went and kind of done some research on it, and I've seen dog bites, I've raised dogs and all that. And when you try to look at that photo, and that was always, because I avoided this case at all cost, but I did see the evidence stuff that was trickling out outside all that drama. And I kept looking at that picture going, I don't see how backing into him at the rate of speed and all that she was doing and all the conditions caused that type of, especially if their tail light exploded and cut all this up. It just didn't seem consistent with tail light cuts. You know what I'm saying? It seemed more consistent with something else. And then we started learning about this dog. Yeah, I agree. Firefly, I do. The other expert that we were trying to watch her, but the damn thing won't play right. She really gave a good description of her interpretation of what that picture shows, and it was very unbiased. And I took it. I didn't have to go with her testimony. And that's what I look for in the experts, because that's what it comes down to when you're back there deliberating. Is this what we think it is, or what? And if it is dog bites, then there's a huge problem, bigger than anybody wants to admit. And that's what I wanted to find out more than anything with this case, is what exactly caused the injuries, because to me that mattered more than anything. But I'm curious what you guys were thinking about. I was trying to gauge where your mind was, if you have loosely followed it, closely followed it, where you thought the jury might end up going with this case. You never know with these cases until they get to trial. Yeah, if they can admit things, you're less, they're not like just demanding you listen to them. Well, when them experts get to arguing up there, well, actually the attorneys get to arguing with the experts, and during cross-exam, that stuff's usually exciting to watch. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. That was my biggest thing. It was like, well, maybe, if it busted and they could have do this and that, but the they're long, they're gashes, and then they said the prosecution failed to prove there was any of O'Keefe's DNA on those 40-something taillight pieces they got. So that told me a lot right there. There was some DNA on those taillight lenses, even if it was transfer, it's still DNA. But now I need to know how it got there, because did it come? Should have come from a direct impact of the accident. Yes, and there is some testimony, Andy, in here about in the case files about that, but I didn't watch all of the testimony, so I'm just now going back and selecting highlights that I was interested in to kind of get a feel for that. So we're going to kind of go over some of it. We'll look for pieces like that we want to look at. Yeah,
yes, if they swabbed, they could determine if they swab the wounds, they could determine if it was dog DNA. They could determine if it was animal DNA or not.
Yeah, and there is
would be able to determine.
But the thing is, I don't know if they did it. I have to go back and look. I got to research that, actually, because we know they picked up blood samples with red Solo cups. We all know what red Solo cups are used for. So you got some red Solo cups on scene, and now you're collecting blood out of the snow into those cups and taking them into evidence. Then you're going to break out your snowblower and blow evidence everywhere. I don't really know. So we're not sure if they actually swabbed those wounds for DNA because they were under the assumption from the beginning that he was hit by something. Never once considered that was a dog bite. Yes, they can. Oh, that was wrong. That they can determine the breed of the dog and everything. And the fact that they got, Chloe was not present the next day and suddenly rehomed. You can't ignore the obvious stuff. That was it all just one big coincidence, or what was there something more? Exactly. When you really look at that evidence, Firefly, that's what you see. Yes, they used Solo Cups B to collect blood on the scene, or alleged blood off the snow. Now, once you put that snow into a plastic type of cup, it's going to change the temperature. Things are going to start happening. I don't know what I'm sure they should have had a better protocol because they're in the area where they were prone to snow. And I'm sure they have other outside crime scenes. So they should have been a little more prepared than to dig up some shit with some red Solo Cups. Yeah, Doodle, that's been a big factor in this case when they decided to not just, when you're digging for something. They dug up Chad Daybell's backyard. You have to be very careful when you're digging or searching through these scenes. Who the heck gets the snowblower out to blow away the snow to look for evidence? Shouldn't it kind of be on top of the snow? How long was that snow falling? That kind of thing. I get it. It might be buried under the snow, but also what could be on top could be very, very important as well. And exactly, once it reaches them snowblowers, I'm sure, I don't know nothing about them, but we have, like leaf blowers and stuff. They're powerful. So I'm assuming your snow blowers up there, guys, are just as powerful, and it's going to blow everything away. It's crazy to think. Could you imagine if they busted off into Idaho 4 house with some red Solo Cups? Lord. I don't know, Firefly. See, we got to research what DNA, if any, was found on O'Keefe at all, because I honestly have no clue. I think he just had on like a shirt, I think he had a jacket on, but there was actually, shirt, jeans. I'm not sure what else, Butterfly. I don't want to misquote it, but I did see footage of what he was wearing that night. It was just like normal clothing, but the jacket and stuff. They were under a blizzard warning that night. It was very, very harsh conditions that evening. So I'm guessing you people bundle up for those kinds of things. I would. I'm from Florida. Remember, I don't know much about how you survive up there. Or out there wherever you live in Snowland. Yeah, you would think that it would have been way different. I mean, we've all seen different things with crime scenes and how they're supposed to collect this evidence and the chain of command once you start collecting it. We just, there's cases that have all kinds of chain of command issues once these cases are started. There's chain of command issues in Delphi with the bullet. There's chain of command issues in Idaho 4 case. There's change of, it happens. But so you're going to make it worse by doing some ridiculous stuff like that. And really, that could blow your whole case, in my opinion. Oh, that's right, Firefly. I did hear some rumblings about these dog chews, the pig ears. So if that dog was chewing on those a lot, and that's all up in his mouth, it's going to also, we do got to look at that closer.
Depends on the dog, and if the dog had not had, depends on exactly what he was wearing. But yes, Butterfly, a dog could bite through clothing like that.
They can rip through that clothing with their canine teeth, and the type of dog that Chloe was, yes. And I don't know
what kind of dog was Chloe.
Wasn't she German Shepherd? I believe that's what she was. Firefly, you might know, but I believe she was a German Shepherd. Also, their claws. If I don't know, some people will clip their dog's nails right regularly because the tips get so sharp. But if they're not, those are very, very, very sharp, and they can just tear right through something. Now, if he had his jacket off, because now initially the people inside the home at 34 Fairview said John never came into the house. He gets out of, they never saw him, but he gets out of Karen's vehicle. She backs into him and drives away, leaving him dead in the snow because she murdered him, according to the Commonwealth. But the people in the house said he never came inside. Well, we learned in the testimony that wasn't true. He apparently did go into that house. Did he take his jacket off? They're alleging the dog bite occurred in the home, or the dog attack happened in the home, because the two of the gentlemen stepped away from the rest of the party goers and they were alone with John O'Keefe. Something happened during that time. John ends up out there in the snow. We don't know how he got out there, but that's what they're saying. That's what the defense alleges happened, that John got into the home. He ended up into an argument with 1 to 2 of those men. Chloe, the dog, attacks him in the process, and he dies. I don't know if the dog wounds killed him. I don't really even know if we know the cause of death with John O'Keefe. And then was it the freezing in the snow? Because then once he was outside again, there was a phone in the house that Googled, how long does it take to die in the snow? Which, that's an odd thing to Google when you literally got somebody on your lawn dying in the snow. Crazy.
But y'all have to think about something else too. If she was a German Shepherd and if she was a canine dog, you have to think of something. If y'all ever watch them train canine police dogs, the ones that are out there, they even have to have those things on their arms, and they can still feel it through those things that they have on their arms. So
Yeah,
if they can still feel the bite, imagine you don't have one of those things on your arm. They can bite through your clothing or whatever you have on, because they have those things on their arms, and they can't bite through it, but they can still feel them. They can still feel it through that.
Yeah, because if you've ever watched those, you see those, and they have them on because those dogs are meaning business. Firefly, I'm not sure. I don't think that. I'm going to say I don't think she was retired, because she apparently was prone to bite. She had a bite history, and they even say in the testimony that the owner of the dog at that night at the house was watching Chloe because they were friends over. Now, look, I've raised dogs. I had one that she didn't like certain people. I didn't want to sit there and keep my eye on this dog the entire time if I had friends over, if we were outside cooking out, whatever. She's going to get put up, right? I'm going to go put her away from all these people so no one makes her nervous and provokes her to bite, because then it's on me because I allowed my dog to bite people, and I'm not going to do that. So I would always make sure she was away from a crowd if necessary. But this dude lets her just roam around, and she's been prone to biting, and then you got the John O'Keefe thing happen, and then they get rid of Chloe, boom, that fast. All of a sudden, now she's a biter, and we got to get rid of this dog. Andy, I don't know. I never saw any photos of the jacket or much talk about a jacket, so I'm thinking he took that thing off when he got inside. I don't even know if he had one on when he got out of Karen's vehicle, to be honest, because they were intoxicated. There's no bones about that. And they had been arguing, and they just left one club, the bar, the eatery bar, whatever, and then drove to that house. I don't even know if he had his coat on when he got out of the truck, honestly. We'll have to figure that out. Exactly, Firefly. You know that's happening. You know that's going to happen. My dog would do it. You didn't need to come at me sideways in my own home, because my dog was going to do her job, and I would absolutely allow her to do that job.
Well, there's also something else you have to remember too. If this was I don't know if this was a trained police dog, but if it was, that's most trained police dogs. They go home with their partner, their canine officer, and they only like their canine officer. They don't.
Yeah, but they can't have a dog in the field that's prone to bite.
Right, but
They have to control that dog. That's why I'm saying if she was ever a canine dog, they had to put her into retirement, right? You
right,
can't leave her out there amongst the public if she's a skittish type dog. That's
right, but they don't normally like anybody else either but their handlers.
they actually are very approachable and they like a lot of people, but they won't listen to anybody else but that handler. Do you know what I'm saying? They encourage you because we have a big canine training facility here, and the cops that do roll around with their canines, they encourage the kids in the neighborhoods to reach out, and you're welcome to pet their dogs and that kind of stuff. They have to be very good with the public, but they have to also know, like my dogs, like my dog will listen to me like nobody's business. She's not gonna listen to the rest of y'all. It's just all there is to it. It's my son's dog. She only listens to him. She listens to me.
Oh,
They
we've had,
listen to their
I've
trainer.
had, I've seen several though. They won't, the canine dogs here, they won't let you approach.
I mean, they won't while they're working, but you're not supposed to approach the vehicles and stuff, but they do get them out. They have these little gatherings and stuff where you can take the kids and have like these little day outings for safety in the community or whatever. And they have the dogs out there and the kids can come up. They don't want the kids to be afraid of the cops or their dogs. So they have to be trained to be okay in the public. Yeah, exactly. If she's too aggressive, she cannot stay on duty. That's like having an aggressive hot cop out there. Can't have it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that may be why he took her home.
Let's see what B says. This will sound strange, but if he was unconscious and laying on the ground, the dog may. Wait, another comment popped up and my eyes went crazy. Have grabbed him by the arm, trying to move him or wake him up. Could have, but I doubt it because of the fact he was probably trying to protect, in his mind, protect or defend his owner. If there really was a argument going on in that house. Now, because prior to the getting back to the house, we have seen footage from the bar where John did have a little words of exchange with the homeowner before they got back to that house. So I don't know how far that carried over, what all that was about. That's cool, Wisdom. That would be so cool. I'm really good with dogs, and I didn't want one for a long time. But I told my son the other day, I was like, I got this strip of property here by the house. It's like, I know what I'm gonna do with that piece of property out there. He's like, what? It's like, I'm gonna build me a bunch of dog kennels. He's like, you don't want any more dogs, you said. I was like, no, I'm gonna get some trainee dogs. We're gonna go rescue people and look for evidence. He's like, oh my God. No, the dog did not belong to John. It belonged to the homeowners where John was visiting. It was their family dog named Chloe. Okay, let me pull up something else over here. And we'll move on. We'll see if they get their verdict on Monday. You know them jurors is tired and ready to go home and be done.
So how many police officers were at this party?
Oh. I think there was about 3 to 4 officers, at least 3, I believe, 2 for sure. And their wives were there. Some of the kids ended up coming in that lived there. There were a few people there. I'd have to get the actual list again, but there were several officers there that night. And if I'm not mistaken, they were from the Canton and the Boston PD. So there might have been 2, and then the state trooper that's all involved. They all knew each other. All these officers and wives and knew each other, friends of each other. Fathers used to be cops and things of that nature. So it was a whole big mess from the beginning, you know what I mean? And when the implications began to come out, it was hard to legitimately believe any of it because of all the craziness that followed with social media getting involved to the level that it got involved, that really turned me off so bad. I just stopped watching and thought, you know what, I'll wait till trial and look at the evidence and I'll go from there with it. Okay, let me pull up my mail here real quick. Why does this not do what I tell it to do? I freaking have been muted, guys. I'm sorry. All right, this is Dr. Ben Brown. He's from Pensacola, Florida. This is his wife, Hillary. He's a plastic surgeon who operated, like I said, where'd it go? It was Restore Plastic Surgery out of Gulf Breeze, Florida. And he would perform procedures at his office, and he would also perform procedures at the hospitals. They require, a whole different level at the hospital. So at his particular facility, it was like level 1 procedures. So there wasn't as much requirement as there would be for 2 and 3 or hospital setting. So anyway, his wife was the office manager of their practice. In time, she began to do procedures in the practice. She's not licensed. She has no medical training. He gave her a registration number that appeared to be like a license number, so nobody would ask any questions, basically. So she began to do things like the laser treatments on people who would come into the office, skin treatments, different things she was doing. She got into doing sutures, and she loved the plastic surgery herself. And she was having a lot of stuff done to her, and he was performing all of it. And then, so as I've started to read the documents, I had to start wondering, is this his personal little Barbie doll? Was she just attracted to the plastic surgery? I don't, it's a weird, complicated thing, and I think they both were kind of playing off each other. It's weird. So he is doing multiple procedures this day on her a couple months ago. Hillary got her own cocktail of medications ready. She took them on her own. Some pills were involved. We'll read the document in a minute. She also, and Firefly, you can speak on this. She got her own IV solutions ready, and nobody double checked them. That's not allowed, is it? Or it shouldn't be. Now, it is not in the state of Florida to do these procedures on his wife was not against the law. It can be seen as unethical across the board, which is exactly what it was. But right now, which is a huge problem in Florida, and believe me, Florida gets pushback on their BS and then they have to go fix it. And there were complaints filed against this man. Nothing was done. I've got the records from that. Then they ended up finally, after her death, and the employees that were there came and told the police what was happening. They began they began the investigation the minute she died. And then they found out what was going on in there. They ended up getting an emergency order to pull his license. And he finally has been arrested, and now he's in jail. So that's kind of where we are with the case. Whether he intentionally harmed her on that table, we don't know. He was given, and Firefly, he was injecting her with lidocaine in the office, and he ran out and then switched to a different medication. And before that, she took a handful of pills, which is going to be the Versed, and some other things that was taken in conjunction with that. So it's really weird that you run out of lidocaine, so you run go grab something else and mix it up all of a sudden.
Morning, Mom.
Firefly, I'm going to have to get you a link, get you up here to have some conversations with me. This is my friend Firefly, guys. She is a nurse. She's my go-to on anything medical. I'm like, what's this? What's that? What's going on here? Give me some clarification. Good morning, Mom. How are you? Okay, let me find the one thing I did want to, the complaint, the original. Oops, I got it way back here. Sorry, I emailed my stuff. Emailed myself my stuff. Okay. This is a post he made. Now, Molly, my local journalist has been covering him, caught these. He made some posts the other day. He made bond. So he gets out and he goes to his business page and he starts posting stuff that's no longer there right now. But I got the screenshots. Molly got them. And yeah, he's mad at her for talking about him in the media. But, well, it is what it is. So this one, I wanted to read okay. The patient received Versed, Valium, prior and during the procedures, tumescent fluid, lidocaine for liposuction of the arms, abdomen, scar revision, and mini muscle plication. He was injecting her with that lidocaine, and then he injected into the arms prior to the end of the liposuction procedure, unknown amount of the concentration. He wasn't documenting how much of it he was giving her or anything. She started to have signs of lidocaine toxicity, which was muscle twitching and restlessness. Let me throw that little warning up here, guys, in case I talk about anything sensitive. Yeah, so she was dying of lidocaine toxicity, and then when it came time to do life-saving measures, they weren't done. There was no crash cart in the room. The nurses said that they continued to ask him, do we need to call 911? And he was telling them no, while she was having seizures on the table. One nurse said she walked out of the room, or snuck out was the way she put it, to call 911. It's like 20 minutes that went on. I don't know if dude just freaked out and thought he could get her back, because apparently she had done that before, not to that level where she had seizures, but he had a hard time waking her up once before. During administration of the local anesthetic to the face, eyes, and lips, Hillary reported vision changes, blurry eyes, and seeing orange, prior to having a tonic-clonic seizure lasting for several minutes. Following the seizure, she was unresponsive, not breathing, and in cardiopulmonary arrest. Cardiopulmonary resuscitation efforts were initiated and transported to a freestanding emergency room, diagnosed with lidocaine toxicity. Because of the area they were in, they have one hospital over there. The three majors are over in Pensacola. They had to take her from that. They got her to the ER. Then they had to transport her over to the level 1 trauma center in Pensacola. In conclusion, witness interviews all corroborated that when the victim began to show signs of overdose, Brown continued injecting unknown amounts of lidocaine and did not stop until the victim went into a seizure and cardiac arrest. When this occurred, Brown delayed the reporting of the incident to 911 and used his status as a doctor to do so, when it is required by law. Brown showed a history of allowing unsafe practice to occur and took no precautions for the well-being of human life, even after an incident where he could not wake the victim during a procedure in January of 2023. Based upon these circumstances, your affiant has probable cause to believe Benjamin Jacob Brown, having culpable negligence, did violate Florida statute laws, manslaughter by culpable negligence, and did through said culpable negligence cause the killing of a human being, Hillary Ellington Brown. So that's the backstory on this dude. This is a young woman, Brandy. We're gonna watch her story real quick, a little piece of it, and there's a lot on that guy. I think I'll do a whole show on him, but I'm just catching you up on what I noticed. Because I've been looking at Molly does a great deep dive. Like I said, she's got several episodes on it, and I'll always watch them when she releases them. And I've kept up with it through her reporting. So then I realized social media and the national news were starting to pick up on it, and so I wanted to go over it in case you guys were seeing any of it. Now let me get back to over here. Let me get back to comments over here where I can see that again. Yes, Firefly, he was a plastic surgeon with a shady past. Yeah, the lidocaine's not controlled, but it will darn sure numb you up, right, Firefly? And I'm assuming that when you inject it like that, that's straight into the system, and that's going to be, if it numbs everything that can't work properly, right? It'll start to fail. I'm assuming that's how that works. Because I know about some lidocaine. I rub that stuff all over my shoulder. Firefly, it's right here. Gulf Breeze, Florida, Pensacola, Florida. Santa Rosa County is the county out of where he is charged. All right, let me pull up this. Let's see if we can actually play it now. I think everybody left my house. It's quiet out there. Maybe if anybody was using Wi-Fi, they've stopped. I told them all to get off of it. Okay. Okay, this is a local attorney, and he apparently has her story here of the young lady that, and I watched a big interview with her and her, well, actually Molly did an interview with her and her husband, and it was really interesting. Okay. Oh, for real?
Hey, so we're here with Brandy Fitzsimmons. Brandy was a patient of Dr. Ben Brown. Dr. Ben Brown has been in the news for various things over the last several months. There's an open, I think, investigation into his wife's death. And then we have reviewed tens, if not 20, 30, 40 cases of his of potential medical malpractice. And Brandy's was one that stood out as one that probably carries with it a lot of information that the public should be aware of. Just if they get in a situation like this, they can avoid it. The reason Brandy's case was so monumental compared to the others is that Brandy, like so many people these days, had her phone, and her and her husband, I believe, videoed with their phone a lot of things that went on in the office that shouldn't. And Dr. Malone's going to talk a little bit about that. But many of these plastic surgery operations, I say many, there's a fair number of plastic surgery operations in Florida. South Florida, there's a lot. Obviously, we have some in Northwest Florida with Dr. Brown's operation. But what's happening is the doctors that are trying to get away with stuff that they shouldn't be doing do it in the confines of their office. That's not an official licensed surgery center, but they're doing surgery or very close to surgery in these facilities, their offices basically. And Brandy and her husband happened to capture an appointment where there was basically surgery taking place in a facility that is really not set up for surgery. And I'll let Dr. Malone, we're going to share, Brandy wants to share this video because she wants the public to see what should alert them if they're ever in this situation. Because some people may think, oh, this doctor's telling me I need to go have this done, and he's just taking the stitches out. And the next thing you know, there's actually tissue being removed, right? And so Brandy thinks it's important, and I don't disagree with her, that the video conveys more about what you should be looking for that is not appropriate for a doctor to be doing. And so the video shows that in some pretty gory detail. And as much as it is intrusive to Brandy and her husband for us to be showing this, it's of public interest to her and to the firm that people understand that this is the kind of thing that should not be taking place in an office. And so that you know in advance, if you're going to a plastic surgeon and they're asking you to do procedures in an office setting like this, you need to be concerned about what's going on and maybe stop it. Brandy didn't know that at the time. And so here we are, right? You as a patient are not going to know what other patients are going through. You as a patient are not going to know if the doctor, for instance, is trying to cut corners. It's your first time most of the time dealing with the plastic surgeon. You're not going to know what it's supposed to look like to have a follow-up procedure because you're trusting that the doctor is going to be doing things in your best interest. And many times they're not. So without any further delay, Dr. Malone set up what it is that we're looking at and that the video shows and sort of set the scene as to where this appointment fell in terms of, and then Brandy can chime in as she feels like she needs to clear things up.
Sure. And Brandy can certainly chime in. And I guess to reiterate Joe's point is this, you were all the way along this was normal.
That's, yes.
You understood that this is part and parcel of, I had a procedure at a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
I had a wound complication where it didn't heal. And I went to the doctor's office.
Mm-hmm.
And so these procedures being done in the doctor's office, in an exam room, basically,
Mm-hmm.
Where there is a wound that's being attended to, which is not abnormal in a doctor's office, especially following any kind of surgery, not just plastic surgery, but there are then some expectations as far as wound care. sterile fields, document.
Sorry, guys. I had to go to the bathroom. When I came back out, that was happening. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Sterile fields, document. Sorry. What has been done, why it's been done, that the patient has consented to it. And a lot of that is done leading up to the procedure, just as if you're having surgery again back at the hospital a couple weeks earlier, okay? Along with all that goes anesthesia to the patient. So that they are comfortable.
I think internet providers need to understand we swamp people like our Wi-Fi to work.
Not uncomfortable, not in pain, making sure that you're not.
Okay, I want to do it a different way. I want to show you guys something. I could just do it better in the picture, apparently, because that right there is going to drive me absolutely bonkers. Let me get that back up. No, Firefly. Remember when I used to talk about going live, or when I would start going live? That was always one of my man. I got a good computer finally. I bitched about that long enough, didn't I? But I got the Wi-Fi. It's all right here, and I'm wired in now. But yeah, we get the crazy swamp signal being out here in this rural. If I'm not trying to play videos, we're good to go. So I think I need to call and see if I can do something about all this mess. But if I can, I can't. I won't fret about it. That's for damn sure. I have to pick my battles. Let's see. Let me get back to this. Let me find the picture that I want to show you guys, and then I'll put that back up there. There were several women that started coming forward about him, and they did. There's a lot of happy, satisfied customers out there as well, but there are some very unsatisfied customers. And one of the ladies began a website, and women were able to come in there and share their stories, and that's how they all started finding each other. And then this happened with his wife. There's some photos of, I don't know, this lady. I'm going to show y'all this. Let me I don't know what to make of it. I really don't even know if I have a comment. Hang on. There's some of his work. Let me get this. Okay. The left was the before, the right is the after. If the makeup wasn't on her, I could probably get a better assessment, but it's like a whole different face. I mean, that's like a super duper facelift or something. That was just weird that people think they gotta. I understand you want to look your best, but at what cost? Where's my rest of my pictures? Damn it. I gotta find it. Hold on. Where did everything go? Oh, I know. Well, Firefly, I was using straight up Wi-Fi, but I got an Ethernet cable now. It doesn't seem, I thought it would help. We'll see. My other son said he's going to come over and do some things for me. So I got to get him over here. But I think the first two couple streams, we didn't have any issue. And then all of a sudden it started. I don't know why all my things didn't just show up right then. Let me figure them out here. Oh, it doesn't look like everything went through like it. Oh, I know what I get. I know what I can do. Hold on. Let me do this really super quick. Yeah. I think I got to get the cable I'm using though that I found. Like I had some stashed stuff over, and I got it out, and I don't know if it's working right because it was like one of my son's super old ones for Xbox. I think I'm just going to go buy a new one. Yeah, my son told me that I needed to use OBS. He's like, I don't know why you're using StreamYard, Mom. I'm like, because. He's like, you need to use OBS. It's like, yeah, but I've heard this, this, and that. He's like, your system can handle it. Well, really? Because I can't even play a video right now. So the computer can, but I don't know, Mom. I'll have to. What are you using? Are you using Streamlabs or StreamYard? You're using Streamlabs, right? I'm gonna have to get with. You love OBS? I'll have to get with you and talk about that then, because I've heard other people speak good about it as well. That's what got me interested in it. Okay, you use all three. I definitely need to talk to you then to figure out because I'm not really loving StreamYard. You know what I mean? I really don't just love it. It's just convenient. Can do a couple different things. I'm about to have to pay for StreamYard though, because if I continued, and I haven't streamed that much, but I'm already at almost my limit for like the month, and it'll reset, like the middle of July. But what if I want to come talk? I'm gonna have to pay to talk apparently. That's okay. I will. Okay, so there is another topic I wanted to touch on. Just a little bit. And there's not a lot of people in here, and I see we're a pretty calm setting. But there's been things about the Idaho Fort case from the very beginning, almost. Because a couple of people put it out there that we just had to do all in our power to protect rights. And which we're all down with and absolutely know that has to be done. But it got to a point where we could not talk about the defendant because a few people on the YouTube decided that if we did, he wasn't going to get a fair trial if we talked about him, which didn't make any sense to me because it depends on how you talk about it. If you go and say, well, I heard this on the news and I seen that and I heard that and I saw this interview and blah, 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 blah. I've heard a lot of shit too. But there's a lot of it that wasn't. A lot of it came with receipts. A lot of it came with verifiable sources. But we weren't allowed to talk about those because it didn't fit a narrative. It might make him look this or might make him, and I don't understand because every time we have a case, we're going to talk about defendants. And did they, didn't they? Them themselves on a personal, all we kept hearing was looks normal and goes to college, can't be the guy. So I can't talk about him? Can't talk about his past, his history, none of the things. And not saying that makes somebody guilty or innocent. It's just what it is, it's part of the story. So there was a lot of interesting things coming out in that damn book. And I've been listening to the Audible version just because I'm curious by nature and I want to know. Where'd you get these sources? How did you get this? And I followed when Firefly, when did we first learn that book was going to be written? Gosh, long time ago. And we started paying attention and watching the excerpts that would come out. And there was a particular reporter out there who would have him on to talk about these new excerpts he would release. And if you follow that from the beginning, he really went in heavy with Moscow police for this and that. These mistakes were made. This was done. They may have the wrong guy kind of thing. And then as the things unfolded, he evolved with it. But there's just some very interesting takeaways in the book. And I didn't know if you guys had heard anything about it, what your thoughts were on stuff like that, because these are the types of things that impact these cases. I feel like the social media presence, the media presence, period. I don't think it was a good call to release a book about a crime that hasn't completely been Okay, it might have been solved, but we don't know the outcome yet. So I think it was weird to write a book about it, personally, and release it now. Do you know what I mean? What if something changes during trial and you look stupid?
Hi, JC.
Yes,
you
JC, I'm talking about Howard's book. You find it absurd. What's more absurd to you, that he wrote it and released it before the trial is over, or the things he's talking about? I'm very curious to know what people think. JC's always got some good conversation.
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm. There was an interview that he did, I saw on another channel. Uh-oh. I messed my screen up. Hold on. And he seems, like that, like the guy we were watching testify a minute ago, kind of like a little haphazard type deal. That's almost every time I've ever seen Bloom do an interview. He strikes me as that way. I can't tell if you're just getting a little bit older or if you got a little drinking going on. I don't know. Firefly, that, yeah. Some of the sources he doesn't tell you who they are, but he goes over some of the stuff. And as always with these sources, they're never going to tell us. And I think a lot of times they do get law enforcement sources. These people, they do get certain people in towns that will talk to them eventually. Not just him, but media across the board. And I remember back in the 80s when it came out and it went to the Supreme Court, it was this whole thing about media needing to divulge their sources. And the Supreme Court said no. Because a lot of times sources will come out anonymously, and then there's a whole danger. It's just like the gray area. Then you're like, well, who the hell do you... I can come out here and tell you guys a source told me this and that, but you only got my word. You know what I mean? Unless I provide you some sort of receipts on it. Well, yeah, because this book will have a further reach than YouTube. I don't think YouTube alone is going to hands down ruin a jury pool, because not everybody's on these streets. They have no clue what's being said or done over here. There's some that strictly just watch whatever's on their news. Some who don't even watch either social media or the news. And then I'm not, this day and age, and if we're going to be on social media, we have to be smart. We're going to see and hear all kinds of stuff, and we have to decide what we, can commonsensically determine to be right or wrong. I'm on social media all the time, but I guarantee you I am your dream juror, because I'm only here for your evidence and nothing more. Now I'm excited for Mr. Steve to do some testing over in that Karen Reed case and some other things he was talking about. All right, let me pull up something real quick for you guys so before we head out. And we all know, well, not everybody may not know. You know what, Firefly, I did catch part of that. I think I got it saved as well. I was curious to see what he and his partner had to say with Bloom. So I did watch part of that, but I did not get to finish it yet. I don't normally watch Andrew Meyer just because I don't anymore, but I did watch that. I'm always interested to hear that kind of side of it. Really? Okay, so I missed that part, Firefly. It said the FBI investigating a stolen ID card from the WSU Chem Lab He says maybe BK was trying to build a bomb. Dead serious. No way. Bloom said that, or a source told him that? Is that the same source that told him he was over there that night at the what was it? The oh my God. Over there at the little place where they store all the knives and stuff for the ROTC building. Lord. Okay, let me pull this up and see if it'll work for us. Wait, this is actually it that I have pulled up. Firefly, I did save it. We'll watch that one. Let's turn that one on.
Idaho 4 case. In his book, The Night Comes Falling.
Freaking for real.
Today, we dive deeper into the Idaho 4 case. I'm Lainey Law.
And I'm attorney Andrew Myers.
And today we have the pleasure of being joined by New York Times bestseller, Howard Blum. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
And we also have our wonderful intern Red with us today, as well as Yoli Medina. How are you guys doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Awesome. So Andrew, you had put together a wonderful interview that we're going to go through today.
Well, everybody could ask questions.
I'm a little starstruck. This is like our most esteemed guest that we have on today.
Howard, the first thing I wanted to ask you before we launch into the substantive thing is, how is it that you decided that this case would be the subject of your next book?
Completely by accident. The way I got into this at the beginning is we're sitting on around the Thanksgiving table in Connecticut about 2 years ago, just about a week after the murders occurred. And
all right, Firefly. We haven't had an in-depth conversation in a long time. It's coming, girlfriend. I feel you. I'm glad you said that.
And people at the table, after we discussed family matters, politics, they started talking about this case. I hadn't paid much attention to it, but it was such a perplexing mystery. And I just spent the past several months in Oxford studying, of all things.
Hey, Firefly, let me ask you, you would probably know the answer to this, because I have the Audible. There's no way for me to screen share that, is there? Like, if I was to want to do that one night with you guys, like, I couldn't just play my Audible book on here, huh? I don't know how I'd do that. If you guys have a suggestion, let me know.
Russian history. Going for my graduate, I had a graduate degree that I got before some of the professors were even born at Stanford 100 years ago, but I'd gone back because I was just sort of fascinated and I had the opportunity. So I then decided, I had enough of academics. I wanted to do something in the field again, put out my trench coat, go off and investigate a matter. And I called up Graydon Carter, who I'd worked with at Vanity Fair, and he said, go out for us for Airmail, his new publication, we'll take it. And I went out there not to write a book, not even to report necessarily on the case, because I wasn't sure what I would find, but I went out there seeing, at this point, there was no suspect. I wanted to solve the case. You know, I thought I'd go knocking on doors, figure out what happened. And
so Tony Mathis,
after about 5 days there, a tribute to my colossal ego, I thought I'd figured everything out.
JC, it's awful when they want to profit off of the tragedy. It's horrible.
Yeah.
The house was in a sort of a gully. There were some nicer houses around it. I thought someone would have.
JC, did you get your car fixed, honey?
Yeah, Mom, there is a book about Delphi. The link, JC, to the Audible, I don't know, I guess it's on my app. I really don't fool around with books and all that. This one I was curious for various reasons. I don't, just because I listen to something and listen to what this man has to say does not mean I believe what this man is telling me. I take it all with a grain of salt, as I always will with everything. But I wouldn't be very fair to myself if I didn't look at all of the things, just because this is, and I know a lot of people are talking about this right now and they got very mixed emotions, but I don't let my emotions come out of what I've been told by social media. If that makes sense, I've really tried to separate. It's hard. I'm going to be honest with y'all. Idaho 4 is difficult for me because I do not see it the way most people see it. I probably won't ever. I find there's a lot of issues in this case, and they're not directly related to law enforcement. They're directly related to social media. And I can't, you know, like me going back to saying we weren't supposed to talk about Bryan Kohberger in any capacity that might be negative because we wouldn't let him get a fair trial. Who's listening to me talk? I had to listen to all those same people trash every victim in this case. Openly, publicly, all over social media for 8 solid months. They were this, they were that, they did this, they did that. Did you see that picture? Did you see her? Did you see who she was talking to? Really? We're allowed to do all that, but I can't tell you Bryan Kohberger might have started having these tendencies at the age of 14. And I can provide receipts and different things that he did, but they're all going to be accused of being fake. But they're not. They're real. The type of talks are real. The Reddit posts were real. Does it mean anything? Does it mean he did anything? No. But it builds your profile. It is what it is. We're not making this stuff up.
Why are you doing so?
There were, you know, it's all there. It's not like that was made up. That's why I could never understand. It was be different if it was made up, you know, and nothing to back it up. But there was, but we didn't talk about that. We talked about the stuff we couldn't back up. I don't know. It was bizarre. It might, Firefly. I have to check into it because, like I said, I actually got it for free because I signed up for it or some stupid thing. I was curious and went and looked, and it said sign up for free and get this book free. I was like, well, hell yeah, because I'm not gonna pay for that man's stuff. I was looking for a free version. I'm not lining his pockets. Let me see if it'll work. I wouldn't even watch the movie Titanic. You know why? I wasn't gonna make that man who thought he made that movie any more money. You didn't write the story, dude. It was a true story. Get over yourself.
Someone from one of these houses, and most of these houses around there.
All right.
Were members of this local church group, the Kirkers. And the Kirkers are.
This part was interesting to me. And if you follow the Idaho 4 case, you'll understand why.
Want to turn Moscow, Idaho into, according to the pastor who runs it, a theocracy. They've also had some problems. Their deacon was arrested for child sex charges and is in jail. There were videos about 11 young women who belonged to the church who claimed the sexual charges. These are allegations. But I thought, well, maybe someone was involved with that church. So I go and I tried to speak to the pastor in charge of the church, Doug Wilson.
Oh, you
He's not
did?
he's not returning my calls. I go to,
Well, they all
finally I meet him in the parking lot outside his church office, and he couldn't have been nice.
Salty JC asked, do you have a link?
Shoot,
He's a very charismatic.
Shut up, dude. Sorry. I'm getting irritated with this internet stuff and it's gonna make me start cussing. I just download, is it, would like on my Audible app? Is that what you're asking? That's what I have. Is that what you're talking about? What library card? Like from a real library? No, I don't go to those. I have an unpopular opinion of him. I think he is guilty. My opinions are not from social media muddled. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And there's a lot there, honestly, Mom. And we've done some deep, when I say we, I'm going to say Firefly and another friend of ours. We've done some fair deep dives, and we've been hard on ourselves and where we get our information and how we sourced it. We did a lot of our own looking, and we were kind of, yeah, we're right there with you on that. Actually, it's just here will be the safe place to talk about these things. We're still not accusing anybody because we firmly believe innocent until proven guilty, but I still have the right to talk about what this history and this troubled past could absolutely show, and it shows a lot. Oh, JC, yes, I would have to send it to you. Here's the thing, we're streaming, but I can't drop you the link. I don't think I can do it. Let me see. I don't want to throw myself out of here.
If you want me to, I can.
Go ahead, because I can't, I didn't have it set up yet for Kimber and Doodle to drop in the chat yet.
I can drop the one you sent me in Discord if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, JC, I'm going to send it to you in a in Discord and DM, okay, hon?
They did, Firefly, remember how the discussion, I'm going to be talking to you, girl, because I need to get you up here when I do my my Idaho 4 very first show, basically. They're still saying that that plane was following them. Even in the book, that I've come across that part already about how that little Cessna was following them across. But yes, we thought about that before this come out in the book, that there was already some articles out there and things of that nature that talked about it, how early on when they were, traveling back across country, that he was being followed by the feds. And I don't even know if Moscow knew they were doing it. I'm just starting to go down that road with that, which is interesting to me. Apparently there was going to be a little bit of push-pull in the beginning between the two agencies, and I'm not quite sure why yet.
JC, it's in Discord, hon, in your DM.
Oh yeah, let me get that screen down there. Get this open back up so oh, look at that improvement. I can see again. Yes, B, that is so true. There's still some search warrants that I found so curious in this case. There's a lot of things in this case that bother me, a lot of things that don't bother me. One thing I'm having a hard time struggling with right now is I understand why you stood silent. I understood the reasoning for the waiving your speedy trial. I get all that. Why are we still sitting in jail and not asking for a new bond hearing? Especially if you have an alibi and you intend to prove your alibi using the state's words. So if you really strongly have something to suggest your client was not involved, would you be asking for a new bond hearing? or are you willing to stay in jail until the end? I don't know. Most are out on bond. Most get out on bond. Depends on the charges and various things. This is a death penalty case. I don't even know if he would get a bond, but shouldn't you be trying if you're an attorney and you say you got an alibi? My client did not do this.
I would think she should be trying to get him bond. Oh, JC's backstage.
Well, yeah, if you are convinced, welcome, JC. If you're
Hi,
convinced the
JC.
client didn't do it and you're willing to go into a hearing and say he didn't do it, and then you're willing to come in and say, well, we've got an alibi. I wonder why, if there's a strategy behind that. I can't think of one though. So, hey, JC, what's going on?
Not much. I'm just waking up, to be honest.
Oh, I envy that. I slept until about 8:30 this morning, which was a little miracle for me.
Yeah, I worked last night, so.
Oh, bless your heart. You work night shift?
I work 4 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. Yes.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So my schedule's a little not normal, but I've always been that way though. Like always, I've never been a morning person, so it works out for me.
And then when you get up, you have to get, or when you get home, you have to get that unwind stage happening, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's crazy that he wrote this book about it before this trial. Like,
well, JC, I don't want to interrupt you. I'm going to, while you're talking, and Kimber, you can also chat with her. I'm going to walk out back real quick. I'm taking my phone with me so I can still hear. I don't know if I can talk when I get out there, but I'm not going to be but like 2 seconds. But I've got y'all with me. I'm listening, JC. I want to hear what you got to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's insane that he wrote a book before this trial even happens. It just makes me think that he's all for profit, or all for, I don't know if it's like an egotistical thing. But then he also wrote an article a while back that I was like, I mean, I don't know. I think is he I guess I forget what the article was about, but did he like in the article that he wrote, was it like that he was stating facts, like things that hadn't been proven, or like his opinions as facts? Kimber, do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I guarantee you Salty will remember that one, honey, but I don't remember that one.
Yeah,
but
because we talked about it
Yeah, we
significantly.
talked about it. But I'm like you, I find it odd that he has already written a book. I mean, the case hasn't even, it's not gone to trial.
Yeah.
And Salty, she was asking the article he wrote. Oh, I can't even remember. You'll have to tell her. She's just asking chat. Remember what? I'm sorry. Salty did. JC.
Oh. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Yes, Salty. I believe that's the one I'm talking about. But here's the thing with anybody in, that does what we do, what we do, which, we follow a lot of true crime, you guys, like the true crime community, we follow a lot of it. We see a lot of it, we learn a lot from it. I think a lot of us, yes, everyone has their opinions. Don't get me wrong. And I have my opinions. With this case, with this Idaho thing though, like there is a mountain of evidence against this guy, right? And I used to think, oh my gosh, like 100% he did it. This is outrageous, blah, blah, blah. But then like I started talking to people that don't think he did it and have other questions. And that's when the water gets really really, muggy. And it's so slippery because this cast report is going to be what? I would say this cast report is going to be 99% of the missing pieces. Like Riddler said, he was like, I can't convict him yet because I can't put him in the house. And the cast report is going to put him in the house. And the cast report hasn't come out yet, like the full cast report. But my question is there one? And if not, why? And also just take what we do know. His phone was off for the hours of, you know what I mean? Like, yes, everything is super obvious, like common sensely. I want to be like, yeah, he did it. Like, he turned his phone off. He was missing for 3 hours, afterwards. The fact that this is what does not prove that he did it, though. They made such a big deal about his phone pinging in the area 12 times over the last 4 months or whatever. That doesn't mean that he was. That could have just meant that he was in the area. That doesn't, because, my phone can ping 12 times in an area in 4 months, and that just means that I'm driving around.
So I got to a point where I started asking people specifically, because if you listen, I've listened to people who are logical about why they think he's not guilty, or about why they think the evidence is weak. There's a lot of cases are fought and won on circumstantial evidence. More and more over the years, you had direct evidence through hair fibers and then your DNA come out, all the things. So I start trying to get real specific as to where the doubt comes from. Now, the cast is important, but
explain the DNA on the knife sheath, though. That is always what I come back to.
Me too.
Always.
Because everybody tried to muddy the waters when they wanted to convince us that the dude went into the grocery store, touched a box of cereal, changed his mind, put it down. Somebody else come behind him, bought that same cereal, went home, drove home, touching God knows what in between, unpacking those groceries and putting it away, then walking into their bedroom and handling their knife sheath, transferring the DNA from the grocery store cereal box onto the sheath.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. Did you nasty people not wash your hands in between that time? The time you left the grocery store, got home, did all your stuff. You have to be able to explain that. And I do know of a case where they were able to explain how transferred DNA appeared, but you got to be able to explain it. So if you went to a knife show and handled some sheaths, could have deposited DNA, but how long did that DNA live on that brass button?
Yeah.
That's another deep dive I've been down. Did he own that knife at one time, sell it or trade it or give it to Kopacka and leave his DNA on it accidentally? Or did he take it into that house and in the flight or fight situation that was happening in that bedroom, it got left? And he thought, being the genius that he is, he thought he had every speck of DNA off that sheath because he never recalled handling it without his glove.
Well, and what's the hardest part about that is that we don't have the weapon.
Exactly.
And let's face it, we'll never have it. I mean, if we do, or he leads us to it,
No,
he won't, though.
Okay, B. The only DNA we know of was on that button sheath. I seriously believe, there's no way that sheath didn't have Maddie's blood on it with Maddie's DNA on it. There's no way. It was under her deceased bloody body.
Yeah.
So there are other DNAs present in that room on things that the only one that mattered at the time of the PCA was the unknown male on the button. It did not match the boyfriend's. They had already swabbed them at that point, and they'd gotten the original profile back on the DNA. So, they didn't know who it belonged to, but they could see the pattern of the DNA. So when they swabbed the two Jacks and compared, it did not match them. Still matched an unknown male. So that's, that, and even with the latent footprint, we don't know if that's the only footprint, or was that the only one that could corroborate movement of that bloody footprint, which way it was going. I get it that it was seen later in the process, the second processing, once sprayed. So if you're leaving the area, say for instance, because I think everything started upstairs, you come down, you meet what's happening there on the second floor. By the time you leave Xana's area of that room and you walk back toward you're depositing those footprints. You have to be. You can't not be depositing any, then all of a sudden you get one that barely shows up over here. No. Not unless somebody took off their booties at that point thinking they were safe, not realizing some might have seeped through to the bottom of that shoe and deposited a print, because you're fixing to step in toward that kitchen where if you have a suit on, you're about to strip that bitch off before you walk out that slider right there in that kitchen floor. So it's all kind of possibilities. And we have deep dove, and I don't have a lot of it saved anymore, but it's super easy to get to. There are clothing out there you can buy, long sleeve, that look like long sleeve black t-shirts. You know what they are? They're designed to prevent stabs. For high profile people and wealthy people who want to be safe when they go out into public, who may be a target, they can literally purchase clothing, bulletproof clothing, as well as stab proof clothing.
Oh my God.
I was blown away when I saw these things. Blown away. I was like, what in the world? Like, I'm fixing to go out and order me up some shirts nobody can stab me through. No. But that don't mean somebody didn't. I'm not saying they did. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's a lot of options out there when you look into it. But I'm always curious as to where people's beliefs are as far as the evidence, because I'm not convinced. I mean, I know, okay, the car footage, for instance, you could place that car all around the house.
Linda Lane footage. Oh my gosh.
There's nothing wrong with Linda Lane. Linda Lane was leaked. It was sold. It's been turned into evidence. It is exactly what was used in the PCA. People were looking at all the wrong things in that damn footage. I watched people for literally 2 weeks sit and stare at a truck and a dog and Dylan. None of that was out there. The truck was there. The truck wasn't doing what all people claimed it was doing. In the meantime, that whole 2 weeks, they totally ignored that white sedan on the left-hand side circling its prey. I don't know who was in that car. I know what it was doing, but I don't know who got out of it once it parked. I can't see all that.
Right.
Circumstantial. But if you can convince me well enough that's that dude's car and that's his sheath, I'm kind of coming to my little conclusion there that when it dipped down, 408 Firefly behind the buildings and the lights went out, I'm willing to say it parked back there and went in. That right now, unless they can prove otherwise to me or tell me different with a different card. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's really
and I've always said this, like, because of the severity of the crime, it had no chance to not be a complete mess from the get-go. You know what I mean?
There was a small department tasked with a very large crime.
Yeah.
And I don't think they quite knew what to do, how to do, and they were kind of winging it. And then the media got picked up on the case, right? And then
Mhm.
after a little bit, and there's people are hollering because there's no arrest yet, and I think everybody thought this should be easy to solve, local, whatever.
It's
But it
not
wasn't,
like that.
it wasn't that. And then you bring out the fact that, and I'm not throwing shade because I will not with any of these parents. Steve come out with his comments and concerns, and those concerns were, we saw what happened. And then, so you couple that with
Mhm.
things, and then you start getting people who want to insert themselves into the case
Mhm.
and be given a wide open platform. Now, we can't listen to anything Bobby over there in Seth's case says with Sebastian, discredit the nosy neighbor, but I'm not scared to say it. We'll put WSU Mom Kim on a platform for 9 solid months and tell everybody to love her and support her. She's brave.
Yeah.
And I can't with that lady. We've
I
caught
know,
her
right?
multiple lies.
Yeah.
She can never back up anything she says. I have clips of Kim admitting her lies.
Yeah.
So
And people like that do not, people that come in, like insert themselves in a case and lie, that doesn't help anything ever.
No, it really doesn't. Especially when they are come out and they say things they can never back up or want to verify, and people just want to take their word for it, because you can't pick and choose whose word you take in this genre. We don't know any of these people, right?
Right.
How do I know Kim's legit or not until I listen and figure it out? How do I know Bobby is or isn't? Because somebody on YouTube is going to tell me they aren't or are. You have to listen and decide for yourself. Not everybody's going to come out and tell lies or make up stuff or insert, but a lot of them will,
Yeah.
And that's when you have to try to rely on facts as we know them. And that's what I say all the time with Kohberger's case, because they'll say, well, you don't know that's fact. Well, these are facts as I know them, according to what I see filed in court documents.
Yeah.
I've seen some really juicy things filed in Delphi. I have not seen filed in Idaho. I see 2 very different strategies playing out with those cases.
Yeah.
And so far, Ann's appears to be, I need to challenge everything they've done to get my client down off this death penalty.
Yeah.
And then later we'll move into the, the appellate phase when you start, what's that word? The term fighting everything. What do you call it? Appeals.
Yeah.
But don't summon her by name. What are y'all talking about?
Yeah, don't Beetlejuice her. You done said her name.
Whose name did I say that I shouldn't say?
You already know.
Look, come on, WSU Mom Kim. You know who I am.
Now you done said it 3 times.
Look,
Thank you,
I'm good. If Kim wanted to come right now and have a conversation, I am so down. Let me go make a pot of fucking coffee.
Oh, I would too. I mean,
I would.
like
and I can talk to her calmly, rationally. I ain't trying to jump on old girl. Crazy lady, let's talk. Dot ain't even real. Dot is a fake character who lives on TikTok right now, loud and proud. Dot was a plant made up by some creators, and Rory was one of those creators that was in on that. And Brat Norton and Miss Riley Lively, all of them. This is all this craziness in Sebastian's case did not start in Sebastian's case. They went on in all these other cases. There was a lot. Dot was never real to begin with. What's her name? Firefly, the lady. We used to watch her. She does the analysis stuff. She actually is the one that helped bring all that to light with Dot and how fake all that was and their little secret discords. And yeah, Dot knows nothing but telling you a story she heard that they fed her, that they all heard from social media.
Oh, wow.
That's right, Doodle.
WSU Mom Kim, WSU Mom Kim, WSU Mom Kim. We had, hey, Firefly, tell them about our drinking game. If y'all drink and y'all want to get drunk, get
Well,
your whiskey ready. And every time Kim says, I'm a mom, take a shot and see how floored you are by the end of the night.
Don't do that. You'll die. Don't do that. You'll die.
well, and also in Koberger's situation, do you remember that Dave guy
Oh, yeah.
that came out?
Oh, yeah. I got my thoughts on old Dave, too.
Yeah. I was like, oh man. But I do not I cannot get behind. I don't know what's true about, you know, their past or, you know, whatever. If nothing has been proven, then I can't
No.
and I honestly think it is so awful to victim shame
Very.
something like that. It's a
only
crime
thing
to
that
this
Dave-
degree to victim shame is just absolutely bizarre.
It's ridiculous. I mean, if all right, say one of these girls did do some stuff on OnlyFans and one of their fans did something to them, I think the cops could easily figure that out.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not naive. I know stuff happens. I know, I know, but I haven't seen anything to back any of that up anywhere.
I'm not
Any
saying that.
documents or nothing.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about Dot and Dave, they were used to help corroborate the things Kim was telling us because nobody wanted Kim to provide receipts. The people who were putting Kim out there and using her for content did not want her pressured into providing receipts because they knew there weren't any.
Right.
And the only thing that Kim and Dave can corroborate is the kids were finding out before the 911 call or right at the time it was being placed.
Yeah.
And here's how you can know that. We know the roommates are what they are. They called the friend. He runs over. Other friends are starting to gather up outside. The girls are out there freaking out. They're already aware something horrible has just happened in that house.
And
The
now
phone-
you're contaminating a crime scene.
Well, but that's when the messages began to go out by the friends.
Yeah.
Something horrible has happened at King Road. And that was all happening right before and right during the 911 call being placed. It was very chaotic. So, yes, kids were being notified before 911, but there's nothing, I find nothing nefarious with that. Not that it was 2 hours before and all that bullshit. It was all kind of, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
messages were going out and they didn't know what had happened. Christy had even said she was notified something had happened. Then she got notified where they shot. Nobody knew. The rumors were already flying as to what happened because they didn't know.
Well, because it didn't they say that at first they thought that it was did they first think that it was a shooting or something? But and then how they said somebody was passed out.
Unconscious person.
Yeah, an unconscious person.
That is a code. When they got out there to the scene, Steve, this is a very early report that I heard, very early on, before any arrests, all that stuff. And Steve corroborated this story on an interview. When the girls ran out of the house, allegedly, one did pass out and one was hyperventilating.
That's what I was wondering if it wasn't for
Also, when they made
Dylan and
Hunter
Bethany.
discovered what he discovered in the house, I don't think Hunter was really fully aware if Ethan was gone or Xana. You know, he knew that it could be. I really don't know. So when the call went in, I don't think any of the kids were 100% sure anybody was deceased yet. They were all, somebody was unconscious. I don't know if that was referring to one of the roommates outside or if it was referring to the victim inside.
Right.
Also a statutory code used to describe a scene when they're unsure. So we've deep dove that as well because when I start hearing people tell me something no, if it's not making sense to me, common sense plays a big role. If it
Mhm.
don't make sense, I need to go figure out why. So under those looking into that kind of stuff, yes, that is like a generic code statute that they use to describe a scene when they're unsure of what's going on.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody was just unconscious and died. You know, they were the four were already deceased long before 911 was called, unfortunately.
But this is what I can say. I don't think. I mean, yes, there is an 8-hour window or whatever that this went unreported or whatever. But the time of night that it was has to play into that. And also, the fact that I don't know about, if people were screaming, if you couldn't hear it. But I do, and also, give the shock factor. But the thing that I do know is that I'm not saying that they are, but if they had involvement in this, I would like to know what it was. If Dylan and Bethany were involved, I'd like to know what their involvement was.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I was reading a comment. Yeah, I feel the same way, Doodle. I think once he did yell for 911, he knew. The call went through on one of the roommate's phones, but it didn't go through from the roommate. Like I said, one was passed out apparently, and one was hyperventilating. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what was said.
Yeah.
So I don't know who actually placed that call. If Hunter screamed it out or yelled it out, everybody get out and call 911. I don't know who. And according to what I have early reports, that phone was passed around to a couple of people.
Yeah, or on speaker.
Yeah, and so when the 911 call comes out in court, we'll get to hear that. But I think there's so much on that call.
That's why we haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I think there's. I don't know, but as far as Dylan, even in the book, Bloom said, and we've heard this. We already knew it. The downloads from their phones help set the timeline. But if they were, so it appears they were communicating via text right before the murders, during the murders, and right after.
Mm-hmm.
But had no idea that's what was happening, allegedly. Now, and then it also says Ethan was alerted to these sounds and got up, and Ethan suffered a fatal blow. Now, and then Xana's got to be screaming. She's got to be making more noise than someone's here.
Yeah.
So what was Dylan hearing? Now, we heard early reports that she thought she heard arguing. I think that's in the PCA. I have to go back and review. Firefly, do you remember right offhand? But I think that in the PCA it referred to the noises she was hearing. She thought she heard Kaylee playing with the dog.
With Murphy, yeah.
I think Murphy was alerting something's happening up here. I'm stuck in this room. She's over there. I can't get to her. Something's happening. So she heard that. And then why did you hear a scream? You can't tell me Xana didn't raise her voice enough to be alerted. So Dylan's version was she thought Ethan and Xana were arguing.
Okay.
Now, that's yeah.
And I guess my bigger question is, where's Bethany in all this?
Bethany was downstairs. This is what we are allegedly told.
Okay.
She's downstairs, the only one down on that very first floor.
Yeah.
Her bed is all the way to the left when you walk in the front door. So the living room would be right above Bethany's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then Dylan's room. So she's downstairs, doesn't see anything going on. Dylan's right there by the slider in the back. You know where she's at.
Mm-hmm.
She's apparently hearing nothing down there compared to what Dylan's hearing up there. And Dylan is allegedly asking her, do you hear that? I think, are they talking about, or are they arguing? What do you hear? Should we I don't know. Were they discussing going out and checking on Xana? Did they just say, screw it, we ain't been here that long, we don't really know what's going on, let's leave it alone? What I don't get
Yeah,
it.
what are they talking about is the question.
Yeah, I don't want to know just the times they were texting. I need to know what they were saying to
Yeah,
each other.
yeah.
That's important. Because trust me, I haven't put away the mean girl factor. And if there's no known connection between Koberger and the deceased, is there a connection between him and a roommate?
Yeah. And it's also hard without a motive. And I don't know how much motive we have.
I think we're going to be surprised because right now we only have what Ann Taylor has told us.
Right.
No connection. So what's come out since that statement? What is her standard of known connection? I don't know. Now, I always felt like after talking to some people throughout this entire case and the way the evidence tells us what happened in the house that night, we believe Maddie was always the target. It was never Kaylee.
I think it was Maddie too, because
Always
Kaylee was gone. There's people out there that have explained how Kaylee could have been, but I don't know how on board I am with that. But
well, if you look at the fact their wounds were so different, Maddie's was not. Maddie was quick. Kaylee wasn't. So was it a startling factor? Oh my God, they're both in here. I got to contend. One of them definitely startled what was happening.
Yeah.
But if you didn't expect that person to be in that room, like they have their own bedroom, why would they be? Right. So I think finding her there was completely unexpected.
And
Just
finding
like,
Ethan and Xana were completely unexpected as well.
Exactly. I think, and people say, well, how can all that went down that fast? If you logically try to think about it and you talk to people outside of somebody screaming at you, it don't make sense. It literally can happen that fast, especially if you're in the heat of the moment, you're trying to get the hell out of there, right? And you know what I mean?
Well, and also if the victims are in a sedated state.
Yes. Partying, drinking, smoking, maybe.
Yeah. And also, sleeping at the time, probably going to bed. But also, now, do I think that the medical examiner was correct in coming out and explaining a little more than, going a little bit more than she should have? Yes. But the thing is, it can be done very quickly because if you think, one stab can be fatal. And if you are, think of the damage you can do to one person in 2 minutes with a weapon of that sort. You can do a lot. Like one, I hate to use this word, but one, slice can be a bloodbath.
Exactly. It certainly can. And if before his social media was scrubbed, and I know there's, people are like, oh, those are fake accounts, those aren't his, whatever. There was some indications of things he was into and training videos he would watch, and those were included.
Yeah.
How to be efficient with your choice of weapon there. Different things. He was very physically fit to, those years after the weight loss and the drug abuse. It's also going to be interesting, that Strava account, because he was jogging all the time, doing the things, there's different devices and different ways to track people.
Yeah.
It was always curious to me, the questions people had, I think that he thought that he was, I always felt like taking that phone was on purpose. I was like, why would he do that? He's a criminology, this and that, and he knows better. You're right. So where was that phone for those 2 hours? Was it placed somewhere else showing you I was in a different location? Did that happen to be Wawa We Park with sketchy service?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Sorry.
Yeah.
I got excited for a minute.
Right. Well, and
I don't know. I'm just, I'm not saying this guy did it. I'm just saying there's a lot that,
there's a mountain of evidence against him.
there is really, honestly, there really is. And I think we're going to be surprised at some of the stuff they do come out with.
Oh, I think our heads are, that's what I was going to say is, I think our heads are going to roll in
And I
court.
don't think the prosecution's being like, the people are like, well, why don't they say anything? They don't have to yet. They're not at trial. They're not disputing
Right.
their own evidence right now. That's her job.
Yeah.
That's what trial motions are for. Let me
Yeah.
dispute anything I can't. She's going to dispute that sheath. She's already stated that in court the other day. Those motions are coming for Ann to get rid of that sheath, and I am so down to see what she tries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really am from the legal standpoint. I want to know what her strategy for that sheath is, and I'm waiting on that attack because that's going to be a huge one. I
Yeah.
just want to see how she's going to approach that. I'm very curious.
Yeah. I think in both of these, in this Idaho case and with Sebastian, it's like, I don't even know what to think anymore. Like, I don't even know, especially in Sebastian's, like, because I do know what to think. And I think for myself is what I think. And I listen to both sides and I have my opinions, but this is what I was going to, kind of come up here and say is that, people like us, like doing what we do, if we couldn't be a juror on a trial, knowing what we know, then something is amiss, because even though I know all this and whatever, I'm going to go with the fact. I'm going to, if I'm a juror, I'm going to put everything that I know aside, and I'm going to look at what is presented in court.
Yes, ma'am.
You know what I mean?
It should be that way. And they're
If
going
you
to
can't do that, don't be a juror. Don't, But
right.
if you can't-
They should ask these questions better when they start doing these, when they bring in the jurors to do their questionnaires, because somebody made a good point the other day talking about what you're speaking on, moving these trials and the change of venues and bringing in jurors and stuff. If you're going to sit here and say, well, they can't get a fair trial because of social media or mainstream media, that doesn't matter where you move it to then.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right. And so when the system was designed, you are supposed to be, that trial is supposed to be conducted in your community where you committed the crime.
Yes.
You are supposed to be viewed by a jury of those community members. You take it out of their hands because you think they're tainted by what the media or social media is saying, or because of their personal feelings. But maybe that's the case, but they are so heavily questioned, it's insane. The wrong answer is going to get you thrown off, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I personally, following as much, crime as I do, I could honestly say that I could put everything aside and just look at, based on what they present in court, and take that to form my decision.
Well, because no matter what, it comes down to that, right? With every single case.
Yeah.
If a case ever gets that far, missing persons are different, because sometimes they're never found, unfortunately. And when they are, the perpetrators, if they're ever caught, don't always get followed. There's some cases you will follow to the end. But what comes down to what matters the most is what happens in that courtroom.
Yeah.
And the amount of evidence displayed. And then you got all those experts and all the things. And that's why all these we got a whole slew of pretrial motions coming up in Idaho.
Yeah.
And it's dropped at the dock the other day and listed everything. I think I posted them to the community tab, but I've got all those dates, to keep up with what they're doing there, because it's time to get on the ball with those motions.
Oh,
and
yeah.
get that stuff going. I mean, literally, you know,
because
Delphi,
now we're less than a year away from trial.
yeah, I mean, there's trials that aren't taking near as long, and they're the same types of trials.
Yeah.
Same, you know, even death penalty cases, they take longer, as they should, because there's just a lot of litigation to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the end, there's one goal, is to get that off the table in some cases, unless they're just going to stand up there and scream, I'm not guilty, which is not happening in this case. I mean,
Right.
You know, I caught hell in the beginning. It was like Lori Vallow stood silent. Lori Vallow absolutely believes in what she did and the reasons she did it. Even to the very end, she still said there were no murders committed there.
Because she believes that what she did was right.
Yeah, but why did she? So she stood silent for a reason in Idaho. Because if she had got up there and did the not guilty thing, it would have messed her up on appeal later. So then Brian Koberger comes along in Idaho and stands silent. And when I brought that up, people were like, "Oh, that he has that right, Salty. That's just well, you also got the right to stand there and say not guilty. So why wouldn't you?"
Yeah. Well,
I'm not 100% my right to that extent. I'm telling you right the hell now, I'm not guilty. But if it looks really incriminating, maybe I should stand silent for a minute.
Yeah. My coworker that her husband on Thanksgiving night accidentally shot his son because he thought that the car alarm was going off, so he thought someone was stealing his car. So he goes out and to his garage and just starts pew-pewing and not realizing that it's his 10-year-old son.
Oh my gosh.
And so he pew-pewed his son, and when he realized who it was, tried CPR. However, his son passed away, and he is now set to go to trial on August 12th. And apparently he's pleading no contest.
Claiming it was accident.
Well, I do think that, but he's pleading no contest, and like his plea is no contest.
Yeah. You get that a lot in Florida.
Yeah. But
standing silent's not a term in Florida we're used to hearing, you know what I mean? So I had to go look up the legal reasonings behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to things like appeals and stuff like that. And you have to remember, this is a criminology student, criminologist, criminal justice. So he understands the legal parts as well as the forensic and the evidence stuff.
Yeah.
And all of those things. So it's just insane that the different avenues you can take in court.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I've tried to encourage people to watch a lot of these trials. Now, when you were saying the cast reports and stuff with this case, when Anne brought that up in court and she named that FBI agent, we're going to watch his testimony. I'm going to get this together. But he is the one in Idaho that is the go-to for the FBI. He testifies in their cases. He testified in the Chad Daybell.
Mm-hmm.
All about their past, all about the drive time. I literally watched all that weeks before Ann come out in court talking about drive time and this and that. Everybody's like, what is that? I'm like, hang on, I'll show y'all. But it's very, very interesting. And I don't see how Cy Ray can dispute it. And I deep hope Cy Ray. I know what cases have been thrown out, or what he's not allowed to testify in, and what he's been allowed to testify in. I also know he's a true crime podcaster. I also know he hosts it with his wife, and I've watched it, and I like the guy. I have nothing against Cy Ray. His expert testimony, I might, but I don't see how. And he never once, when he was testifying, he knows these FBI agents. He never once disputed the data. He disputed the interpretation of the local police department's interpretation of the data. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they didn't upload this and that into the system. Well, you don't really have to, because the data is what you use to upload into the system, and you still have that.
Yeah.
Just don't have what he uploaded. It would just made me think, well, gee, I'm no data entry person over here, but I kind of understand. I don't understand why you're tearing this guy down because of that little thing. When it's obvious the work he uploaded came straight out of the report that they do have.
Yeah.
Where else would he have gotten the information? You know what I mean? So that's the kind of thing I pay attention to in court, because they will get slick with their words, right? That's their job. And people have, the other day when Dago was showing a closing argument there in Karen Reed, one of the comments was like, are they allowed to say that in court? Yes. And that was the defense attorney that was up there speaking when the person asked the comment. So people are kind of really unfamiliar with some of the things, but it's interesting to watch that FBI agent particularly. We do have some testimony of his. Now that Ansdom brought him up personally, we can go and look.
Yeah. And also, like, the other thing that's going to play a factor, I don't know if it will, but it should, is the IGG.
That's an investigative tool. It's not even admissible in court, won't be used in court. IGG's been used well before Kohberger. There's a lot of things people think that it just started with Kohberger. This is the first case the FBI has ever been involved in. This is the first time we've heard of Cass and all these things. But IGG is what helped catch the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, IGG's been useless in Delphi.
Yeah.
So, but IGG's been used, and it's supposed to be used as a tool only. But I honestly think if you look at the dates and all the different things, it feels like that IGG was being built while they were still looking for that car, obviously. But when the WSU officer saw the car over there in Washington, I don't know which one came back first, that IGG build or that car sighting. Because once that car was sighted, then they pulled the ID and they're like, oh, he's got bushy eyebrows. Oh, yeah, that witness said he had some bushy eyebrows. And then there's your name. But I've also, according to Bloom, when WSU spotted that car and notified Moscow didn't act right away. I got to verify that and look at the dates on that, because that kind of red flag. I just was wondering why they wouldn't look at that right away. So I need to look at those dates. But that's what Ann's trying to get to the bottom of. Which one of those two came first? Because if you directly use that IGG and got that name, and then you began to go actively search for him, that's a problem. But if you were already searching for him, possibly, you know what I mean? That's what that's when she wants to see all the notes between the investigators, the FBI agents. She wants not just your official reports you typed up, but where's your damn notes? Where's those emails? She continues about these emails. She's looking for the side communication, right?
Yeah.
Because that side communication, is it going to show me any exculpatory stuff? And just because the word exculpatory gets used doesn't mean they have something exculpatory.
Right.
If it's different from what this right here says, then that makes it exculpatory. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
People need to really.
And then how they said that, Bethany has exculpatory evidence or exculpatory knowledge, basically. Yeah. Well, do we still not know if Bethany was interviewed or not?
Bethany was interviewed. Look, nothing Bethany told Moscow PD. It was like what Dylan told them. Bethany didn't see anything as far as a witness or as far as the alleged person in the house. She heard, I don't even know if she heard physical noises. All she knew is what Dylan was texting her. Did she look out that front window? Because her bedroom window faces the front. Did she peek out the window at some point when Dylan, do they hear a car crank? Do they hear it peel out? We heard that You know, the car left at a high rate of speed at 420. There are some impressions out in front of that house. Don't know if they came from that particular moment, but they're photographing them, and I'm waiting to find out. But if she heard it, did she get up and peek out the window? Did she see
Yeah.
a white car flying down the road? Is that all she saw? Did she see
And
a
now,
car?
and
So
now
then-
there's a bigger problem.
well, they didn't use her testimony in the PCA because it didn't have anything, right?
Right.
Then apparently she did testify, according to Bloom. She testified via video to the grand jury. So Ann Taylor and them arranged to go to fly to Nevada back when they wanted to subpoena Bethany
Mm-hmm.
to come and talk to them. There are all the exculpatory stuff she's got, blah, blah, blah. They did talk to her. You can't not talk to her, even though now the only way that she could have really avoided all that, because she's not a legit witness in the case, unless except for the phone records. She's not even on the witness list like Dylan was, right? So, but apparently, allegedly, the defense did go speak with her and interview her. And I'm assuming nothing came out of that that was relevant that could be used right now to get my client free. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Might be something she can throw up later on as a reasonable doubt scenario, but not right now. But then we have, as far as I know, both girls testified before the grand jury. They would have to.
Yeah.
You would
think.
especially Dylan. You cannot get away from Dylan not testifying.
Right. Especially with what we know about what she did and what she said she did and what she said she saw.
Firefly, I think I did hear some rumblings about them using or trying to use IgG in that case as well, because I think they had his DNA from the California incident, I believed. Something like that. I'd have to look into that more, but I think it was used. It's used a lot, you know. And JC, you're familiar with Paul Holes, but if you listen to Paul and Cece talk about IgG and how they get there and all the things, and Paul did a lot of work in Delphi. That's why I'm so skeptical that damn DNA in Delphi. It's not Richard Allen's DNA. So if they have DNA in Delphi, it does not belong to Richard Allen. Let's just get that out there. No IgG proof. Paul Holes couldn't find no proof. Nobody. So who the hell's that DNA belong to? In Idaho, we know it supposedly belongs to Koberger, but we don't know who that random DNA is over there in Delphi.
Delphi's a mess too. I know. I haven't followed it as closely as because I, didn't come around to the, true crime community until after Delphi was, well over. But the Idaho was very. I was in on the true crime before it happened, so I, knew immediately about it, and I've been, obviously been able to follow it from the get-go. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah,
but I know enough about Delphi, and I know enough about Summer Wells to know that they are absolute disasters.
Yeah, Summer Wells, I know some of it. I didn't follow that one. I don't stay in them kid cases long. I can't stay them forever because they bother me.
Yeah.
Too much. I have to pick my battles, and they make me mad a lot of times. I get frustrated with the investigations and the different things. I was in true crime long. I'm surprised at how many people came into true crime because of Idaho 4. And then you look at how crazy the case got, and that's all they know. And now it's kind of scary. Because,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
With, I follow multiple cases because I'm not going to sit. Well, we're a year out of trial on this one still.
Yeah.
I sat here every day and just focused on this one case and tried to it's going to go quiet. They're not going to file stuff for a while. The internet trolls aren't going to be, only time they come out now hot and heavy is when we get close to a hearing, and here they come.
Yeah.
I predict it every time. They're here for a reason. They're to crank.
Mama
Things like that
Bear.
happen. But Delphi has always been interesting to me because I followed it since the day the girls went missing,
Yeah.
5 years went by with no arrest.
Yeah.
We get it, and we're all like, "Oh, thank God, finally!" And then we're like, "Oh, wait a minute!" And then we start see, and
Well,
this,
and look at how impatient we were with an arrest for Idaho.
yes,
I mean, that also kind of plays into why I don't really have an opinion. Like, like, were they just trying to get somebody, or were they trying to get the right, like,
well,
it's just messy.
there,
It's just so messy.
it shouldn't have took 5 years to make an arrest in Delphi.
No.
So the fact that the however many weeks it was there with Koberger wasn't too surprising. The fact that this scene appeared to be the way it was, a little gory, and all these things in local. I mean, it couldn't have been somebody like randomly coming down off the interstate, pull over. I'm just gonna go and do my serial killing thing right here and just move on. They weren't living next to an interstate in a rural area. Desert. You know what I'm saying? There wasn't that kind of factor. So it made I was curious as to why they couldn't get there a little faster.
Yeah.
And it kind of started making sense once I started learning more about the alleged suspect.
Yeah.
Because I'll be honest with you, if you got 4 college kids walking in there to do off their buddies because if a drug deal went bad, or a steroid rage incident, or the fight at the frat house, or the I'm jealous of you bullshit, it's going to get sloppy real fast. One of those 4 boys or girls or kids or mixed group, one of those young adults are going to break at some point and tell mama everything. Will she cover it all up and send them away into an African vacation? Possibly.
Yeah.
Just saying. So I do know all the holes and all the crazy theories. I'm just saying, I need receipts. I need receipts who's ever sent off to Africa, damn it. I just know y'all tell me, but I don't know how y'all damn well know.
Yeah. Well, one of them, the way I look at it is,
told them, and somebody told them, and it was on TikTok, and they told them, and then that's how it went. I got it. Go ahead, Kimber.
I think one of them will get. If it was another, like a group and there was a drug deal gone wrong or something like that, college kids, they get drunk a lot. Somebody's going to get drunk and just start talking because that's what they do. And alcohol is the best truth serum in the world, and they're going to start talking and they're going to be like, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. Yep.
Yeah.
It would be hard to get all of them to not say a word, not just all of them.
Yeah,
somebody's gonna break. Because that's a think about it. That's a large, heavy thing to carry if you were involved.
Well, yeah, and and a lot of if you think about it, a lot of crimes have been solved with alcohol because somebody will get drunk or do drugs and they'll talk too much.
Yeah.
So,
and B, yes, and GEDmatch is one of the only ones that the IGG investigators can legally enter without a warrant. The other ones, I think it's 23andMe and whoever, Ancestry, all them, they have the settings where that can't happen. They have to get warrants to do this and that. But from the deep dive and research I've done, and it's something that Cece herself has said, they use GEDmatch because that's their first go-to, because there's no restrictions over there. Yeah.
GEDmatch was very highly promoted at CrimeCon. I can tell you that much.
Oh, I bet it was. It's used a lot, and especially with IGG research into these cases, because you don't have this safeguard. I don't know if that's the right word to say. I feel like once you give that DNA of you better watch what you're signing over there when you're giving up your DNA.
Yeah.
I've never done it. I don't know why it would help me unless I had some medical things going on. Like, it's cool, I know enough about me. So, and I don't have any problem with anybody who wants to find out all that kind of stuff, because it's really pretty cool. But I would just warn that when you do upload to these places, watch where you do it and what you sign, and how you protect your own data. Because protecting our own data is in our hands. Even like with these geofencing warrants, it was Google had to change everything, and I think it goes into effect June or July, so it's this year. Should be happening right now, where they're going to start changing the way they store a lot of your data. So it won't be so easy for law enforcement to walk in with a geoforens and blanket the area, because then they're not just honing in on one person with an individual search warrant. They got 100 of you, and then they can take your name and your phone number from that pool and start an investigation on you without going in for a warrant. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of a gray area, but they're very heavily used and they're very necessary, those geofencing warrants, but they're about to change how they get that information. You know, and when you go into the cell phone issues, AT&T does not share near the information with law enforcement other carriers do. You literally have to fight them, right? Yeah.
Which I don't know how I feel about that. Like, your privacy is your privacy, but also when it comes to something like that, like if there's probable cause, then if you don't got nothing to hide, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, it was a well, even in the Chelsea Grimm missing person case, she had AT&T. AT&T will not willingly give up certain records to law enforcement without a warrant. And to obtain a probable cause warrant to search, right, they have to meet a criteria to show there was some foul play, maybe, or something, you know, to get her. But come on, she's missing. We need the records. We need to see her pings, her last known location. Now, if it was a different carrier, you'd get that preliminary stuff, right? But you don't with AT&T.
Well, that's just like Meta and all of those places that don't want to release the information if someone's missing, you know, and a family can't get into a Facebook. It's bull.
Yeah.
But those laws need to be changed.
But also, I mean, but you also got to realize that, you know, adults do have the right to go missing, to
go
off on their own accord.
They do have the right to go off on their own accord, but like if it's definitely a minor, and I mean, some of these people do actually go missing, and I know they have the right to go off on their own accord, but the minors, you got a minor that's got Facebook and they've gone missing, and they're sticking them as the usual, oh, they're 15 or 16, they're a runaway. They can't, and they need to be able to get into these kids' Facebooks to see who they were talking to, or their social media to see who they were talking to. That law's got to be changed.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if you're a parent of a minor under a certain age, you should be able to access that Facebook page at all times.
Oh, yeah. I always had my son's passwords until he got old enough to responsibly.
And you can absolutely allow law enforcement to look at that stuff. They don't, you know what I mean, to bypass that. But yeah, they need to make these, when minors are involved, it's very, very different situation, right? They need to make it where we can they can gain and access that information relatively quickly and easily. Quickly is the thing, because time elapses, and you know that's when things start to go south.
But also, if you've got somebody that went missing under what you think is nefarious circumstances, you know.
Yeah, if there's probable cause.
If there's probable cause, you know, there shouldn't be any problem with anything. And just like Barbara said she didn't get that stuff from Verizon when Timmy D went missing. So,
well, I think, I don't know what you guys think about this.
Everybody wants their data protected, and they appreciate when their companies do this until
you need it unprotected.
Right. Then you're like, oh, well, wait a minute. Maybe I didn't, you know what I mean? So you have to and it should be, you would think common sense would prevail, Kimber, like that, you know, something bad has happened. We need to take a look at this. Let's just do it. Let's not worry about, but then you're going to have, well, what about our rights? Got to protect those damn rights. Well, what about the rights of the victims?
Hi, Miss Barbara. How are you today?
Right.
But it's also just like the people that like trash talk the police until they actually need them.
Yes. I mean, I don't call them unless I need them, and I don't never have to do that. I respect them. Y'all stay over there. I'm gonna stay over here, but I will push back when necessary. But don't. That's right. You trash talk them, and then
But
you
I
need 'em.
also, I know they're not perfect, but that I don't think that's a reason to, bash them. I do think that they are held to a high standard, and I do think they all do their best. I know it's not perfect, and I know it's pretty messy sometimes. But if you disrespect them and whatever, and then, oh my gosh, like you need them one day, like what the heck? Your mind changes real fast. And even like I was going to say, even in like Sebastian's case, I don't care if Sebastian is found, deceased or alive. I think that a trial is going to need to happen.
I don't know that a trial will happen, because if he walked out of if they find him in the woods or in a well, cave, there's no trial, because nothing happened, as far as nobody put him out there.
There's no evidence.
Well, I'm gonna, if they find him in the woods, in a well, or in a cave that collapsed, I'm gonna know that boy ran out of that house after the damn cat, and he took off into those woods to do what boys do, especially if he was already frustrated, and it was a complete horrible accident. That's the only way to end up in the woods in a cave that's collapsed, or a well. I don't think either one of the parents took him out there and stuffed him in it.
Yeah, no.
There's no trial to be had as far as guys concerned. We have no case. I don't know what, now if it comes out that Katie did it, or if it comes out that Seth's got him hid away all this time, like some believe, we need a trial.
Oh yeah.
But we need evidence first.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying if he's found deceased and there is evidence of something that happened, then, and if he is found and it comes out that, a parent or a parent's family member or whoever had him, then that also needs to go to trial.
Well, I'm going to take TV out of trial, because I'm going to tell you right now, if this is how I feel right now, and I'm just going to be honest about it. If the camp that says, TBI's done a great job, Katie's cleared, they've looked at her, they've looked at everything, then I've also got to believe they're not stupid when it comes to Seth, that they've looked at everything.
Yeah.
They're watching him. They see everything that he has said and done on social media.
Yeah.
You can believe nosy people have sent it to them. The do-gooders, oh my God, did you see this? This man is, they have heard it all. Just like Ann Taylor's heard all the Kim stories.
Yeah.
Don't think she hasn't. She has, and so has the FBI. But not for me, but I know that to be facts. They're watching. They know what's being said.
They aren't stupid.
I'm going to have to say, okay, yes, they've cleared Katie and Chris, blah, blah, blah. Then I've also got to think they're just as smart when it comes to Seth, and they're watching him like a hawk.
Yeah.
And eventually he's going to make contact with that child or person holding that child, unless that person double-crossed him. And now how do you get out of that?
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about that. That Sebastian case is, it's up to TBI now. We can share the flyer. We can share the story of how he left his home that night. That's all we can share. I will not share the drama. I will not share the rumors about his mom and his dad, because that's not going to help. No one's going to look for Sebastian if they think his mom or dad did something to him.
And I don't think that let me say this. I think they're all suspicious. However, do I think that they're suspicious in the fact that they did anything? Absolutely not.
And I can agree with that. But people aren't perfect. And I think if something were to happen in one of our, if we were all put on display like that at some point, we might not be shown in the best light. We might say things that are off-putting to people. Who knows how you're going to react in that situation, right?
Right.
Some people will thrust themselves out into the spotlight and blah, 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 and some people won't. They'll go silent and do their thing. So I try, at this point, you literally, in my opinion, you have to turn off all that noise, because let's be honest, right now they're not fighting about the stuff that Tony and Seth are saying. They've kind of sat down and shut up for a minute. They're all fighting about what each other are saying.
Oh, yeah.
Each other.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I could care less what you say about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because 3 hours of that ain't helping to find Sebastian. I
No.
don't even think we looked for him at 3 hours. We haven't looked that way one time because we worry about what Bullhorn Betty just said or did, and that's fine. That I go in and out to get my laughs. Trust me. I'm bored in the mornings. Clue comes on. I'm gonna jump in there and laugh my tail off at her and Cletus.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I'm
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
bail out because I'm on to more investigative stuff at that point with other cases, because I got too much crap to review throughout the day. So I squeeze a lot in when I'm out driving. I live out, I got to drive a long way all the time. But I mean, I go and listen to it for a minute, but none of that has any bearing on this case and what really could have happened that night,
Right.
It's just difficult with this one. With Maddie, he and Maddie disappeared the same day. And we know the results of all that with Maddie.
Yeah.
With Sebastian, we can't help but wonder, are we going to be stuck with another
summer,
10 years of nothing? Yeah, exactly. Which then will make me circle back to TBI.
Yeah.
What are you guys really doing out there? Right now, I don't feel like I need to push that too hard, because I don't only know of these two cases. I have been on the website. I've seen the numerous other children.
I was going to say aren't they just inundated with stuff like that? I mean,
yeah, you're watching the two girls. Was it Kingsport, Holland Snap, and
oh yeah,
Layla. So I've been watching a lot with that case lately, and there's things going there, and it's like, what is TBI doing? I don't. Is it time for pushback to reform what they do and how they do it? We do that in Florida, and it causes change for the better.
Yeah.
And now we need to see, we got to do it apparently with this plastic surgery bullshit. But yeah, I can't help but wonder at some point.
Yeah. Because it does seem like a lot of people go missing in Tennessee, but I know they're inundated. But are they inundated because they don't have the resources they need?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. I think Florida has more resources probably than Tennessee does.
Well, Tennessee should have a lot of resources. Honestly, there's a lot of money in that town, piped into that town.
Yeah,
a lot of money.
But isn't there also also a lot of poverty in Tennessee too? Though, isn't it like kind of a
Florida's not a wealthy state across the board. Florida's a very mixed bag. And when I say push back, the money, well, it comes down to your legislation and your government, right? And your entities. They're getting a lot of money in the state of Tennessee. There's a lot of wealthy people spending a lot of money in the government in Tennessee. Y'all look into what they're spending that money on.
Yeah.
Where are they giving that money to? So, yeah, I know, Wisdom. They say no one is cleared. They always do in any of these cases. Nobody's cleared. That's like a standard protocol thing we get. But I am to the point where I'm here with law enforcement and the way they handle social media, mainstream media, the public in general. We're not going anywhere, and you continuously come out and ask for our help when these cases come out. Share this, share that, do this, do that, and then tell us all to shut up. You need to get better maybe at handling how you come out and communicate with us. That's all I'm saying.
TBI, the only thing, and I'm with Wisdom, TBI has said that the parents are cooperating, but I have heard Katie and Chris say recently, well, it's been probably a couple of months, but Chris said that none of them would be cleared until Sebastian was home.
Of course not. That's the official statement. It's always that way. I mean,
Yeah, and that's
let me
the way it
let me
should be.
restate what I said. When I'm saying that Katie was cleared, according to YouTube, Katie was cleared. Not in my book, because I understand what law enforcement's thinking right now. Yes, so factually, TBI has cleared no one, and they will not until this boy is recovered.
Yes.
Standard protocol for any case. It's like, I don't think Summer Wells' parents are totally cleared of anything. How could they be?
And JC, as far as Tennessee has its, there are areas that are less. It's like any place. There are areas that
Poverty areas, like all
poverty areas with less income. There are areas that have more income. So, it just depends on where you're at.
You got to figure out if all that money in Tennessee is going to build bigger and better homes for all you millionaires. Is it going to tout stuff for them, or anybody really focusing on criminals and setting up precedents, like implementing a death penalty for pedophiles who murdered their victims,
Yeah.
like Florida has done. Things like that. You got to start wondering where the money. Follow the money. We heard that in Idaho. Follow the money all the way to the university.
Yeah.
Follow the money, people. You'll get your answer.
Well,
Push back if you're in Tennessee. Get out there and vote. Make a change. Protect the babies. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also,
every day they're building downtown Nashville up.
Yeah, and
I need facts over fiction, and I really should have clarified that when I said, Katie was cleared, because I know she wasn't, and I didn't mean to make anybody confused. So thank y'all for pointing that out, because I really don't want that to happen over here, because I've heard it happen so many times in other channels, and people get so confused so easily, and I don't want that to happen over here. So to be clear, nobody has been cleared in the case against Sebastian Rogers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what else I was going to say is, here's the thing. Here in Nebraska, I don't know, I feel like I am the only true crime junkie here. Because I will talk to my friends about, I'll be like, oh my gosh, like something about, the Idaho case or whatever. And they're like, huh? I'm like, the 4 college students that were, killed and whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, I heard something about that. And I'm like, are you living under a rock? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like I have my Sebastian bracelet and everything. And I'll start talking about, the Sebastian Rogers case, and everyone's like, huh? And I'm like, are you living under a rock? But people, the problem is people don't talk about it. Like, listen, there's a girl here in Lincoln that went missing a few days ago, and I had no idea. There isn't on the news, nothing. How I heard about it was Arctic Fox. Like, what? It's 45 minutes away from me, or even in my hometown, and I don't hear anything about it except for on Arctic Fox.
Yeah,
that's
a problem.
The system is broken too, JC, and that really needs to be fixed.
It does. It has to be corrected. To get these stories have to get out there immediately.
Mm-hmm.
You get your alerts on your phone. I sign up for all the alerts in Florida, so I get the amber alerts, I get the silver alerts, the purple alerts, all the things. But like Mom was saying, even down there where she's at, her husband got Maddie's alert, but she did not, and they live in the same house.
Yeah.
So there is definitely flaws in the systems and flaws with the way media, local medias report them, or lack of reporting.
Especially here in
to look
Nebraska.
for these individual. If you don't know, say you went to the store, JC, and it was a child, and you happened to see the kid in a car at the store or in the store looking, you might have thought that kid looks afraid or looks a little shy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you had seen the story, you might have recognized the face.
Right.
If it had been that kid. But if you didn't, then how do you even know?
Yeah.
B, from my understanding, Katie took 2 polygraph tests. This is from my understanding and from what I've heard. Katie took 2 polygraph tests and passed. Chris has taken 1 and passed. And from my understanding, Seth took the Nancy Grace one, but I think he took it twice because the first one he fell asleep in, and then the second one he passed.
Well, let's
That's
just
what I've heard.
Yeah, according to the TBI, Chris and Katie both took polygraphs. So with I looked over there and saw Arctic. With Seth, the fact that he took anything on Nancy Grace, I could care less. Those polys mean nothing to me. Honestly, polys aren't even admissible in court. People have been known to breeze right through them when they've been lying their tails off. I take them with a grain of salt, no matter who took them or who gave the test. But those ones that Seth took are a joke. They weren't in a controlled laboratory setting. They weren't. I don't even know if it was conducted right. The guy wants to go off and ask him about what do you think happened to your kid while still hooked up.
You don't ask that in a polygraph.
All that Nancy Grace knows what she did. She's yet to come out and do anything about any of it because that's what she does. Whatever. Stay in your lane, girl. I'll stay in mine. But I can't. That doesn't mean that I think Seth is guilty of anything because he went over there and took this crazy ass test with Nancy Grace. Go take one with TBI and match the other 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was still hooked. I think that question was asked after they unhooked him.
It was after he was.
But see, here's the thing: they did that, and then they put that out. What Seth's response was, and then they were like, "Oh God, that wasn't supposed to be put out," and then they acted like they were all mad, but they had every intention of that being put out.
Yeah.
They actually did it, and then they took the video, they posted it, and they took it down, but not before I got my screen grab, because I watched the original and I watched it. I knew it was dropping. I was there when it dropped, and I got it, and then the next thing I know, it was gone again. But like I said, it's Nancy Grace. She plops desks down in front of the Idaho 4 house. She covered Casey Anthony relentlessly for 2 solid years. I know all about her tactics, and they are what they are. You know what I mean? So again, the Seth bullshit with Nancy don't mean nothing to me anyway.
Right.
Oh yeah, everybody knows Nancy Grace is BS because that's what she does. She loves to do her BS.
She's just drama. That's her thing. I'm not going.
Oh yeah.
It ain't worth having a conversation about her ass. It's just stupid to take that sort of test and think that you're gonna come out on social media and get people with brains to think that meant anything, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, yeah, I like Nancy, but I do know she's over the top.
Yeah.
But I think she has to be for what she does, but she is dramatic as well. I will say that.
Oh yeah, she's that is, exactly. If you know what you're looking at, kind of like JLR, if you know what you're looking at, you won't be surprised. And I'm never surprised by some of these people because I know their tactics. I know what to expect from them.
Well, and they're phenomenons, so like they're gonna do whatever they have to do to attract people.
In their eyes, they're gonna do it, and I don't normally watch unless they're covering something I'm interested in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like I set out to view it or them in particular, or oh my God, I can't wait to see what they're doing today, sort of thing.
Right.
Covering something I'm interested in, I may go review what you got just for review, shits and giggles.
Yeah.
You can take away from it and ignore the rest.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'm going to be wrapping it up in a few minutes. I got to go take this medication for my shoulder, and I'm supposed to eat with it, and I need to go make all that happen.
Oh yeah, I gotta start getting ready for work. It's almost 2:30. I gotta leave at 3, so, and I'm not even close to ready yet.
I'm trying to avoid the whole Uncle Taco scenario. So what? I guess I know she had it. I know she was talking about it. I guess Seth came in there and said some stuff. Now I might have to go review just for shits and giggles.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I say let them talk too, because the more they talk, and that's why people was wanting to shut Bobby down and different things. I'm like, no, please just let them talk. There's certain times people are being interviewed and they get interrupted, and I'm thinking to myself, please just let them talk it. Let them tell me more.
Yeah.
Let me figure out if what they said is even important right now, or you know what I mean. Because some of it's not. It's irrelevant. But even with Seth, even with Chris, even with Katie. You let people talk, and I'm just listening. I'm not listening to what you think you want me to hear and all that. I'm listening to everything you're saying right now.
Yeah.
Wait, what's this? Allegedly, the cops were called to Seth 2 weeks prior to Sebastian going missing, which lines up with Sebastian was last there. Did the cops come because some a situation with him and Sebastian? Wait, I thought Seth was a cop. I mean,
Isn't he a correctional officer?
Yes, let me rephrase. I was being a smart ass. I'm sorry. I know he's not. Seth Rogers is not a sheriff's deputy in any capacity. He's a jailer at the jail. Him not a cop. Him's a play. I don't want to say that. That's mean. Because every valid job is important. Got to keep the damn prisoners in line, man.
Yeah.
No, Firefly, kind of half-assed. You know me. If anybody does, she probably does. So I've been super busy in real life lately. I'm trying to get to that point where I can stream at night on a set schedule, and I'm trying to do this every Sunday. For now, to get everything going. Like I said, I got to start paying for StreamYard apparently, so I can do this more. I'm going to get up with Mom and explore some other avenues as well. But I'm trying to get to that where I do have a schedule, because I do want to start even scheduling some guests on and things of that nature. And it will be so much easier if I do have a schedule for everybody, or kind of one anyway, as close as I can get to one.
Okay, I got to go get ready for work, so I'm going to jump down. But thank you for having me.
You always have some good conversations, and I do appreciate it.
Yes.
You're always welcome, and appreciate you coming in. Guys, we're going to go ahead.
Have a good day, JC.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Bye, JC. We're going to go ahead and shut it down. I do appreciate you guys coming in and getting caught up with us. I'm trying to just figure out a little format for us and get our groove going over here. But I like the little weekly recaps if there's things that are happening or new things coming up that we might want to start looking into to go over. And it's always great conversations with you guys. And I love taking the time to stop and read what you're saying in the chat and responding to them and letting you all be in on the conversation. And I want this to be a safe place for conversation. There's no need to get over here and fight and argue and scream and holler and drama. I can't. I'll get this massive headache and shut it all down. So thank you everybody for being here for that. Again, we will let you guys know when we go live next. We will pick up our reads of the Stearns files sometime this week. I'm going to finish going over some and getting rid of stuff we've already read over and getting into some of the newer stuff so we can just get on through some of it. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to be in here, and you guys have a great rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys.
What?
I said, thanks for joining us, guys.
I thought you said something about a disguise. I'm like, where are you going in disguise?
No.
My mind's always in the criminal path. Goodness gracious. All right, guys, we appreciate you again. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Goodbye.